Paalam na. malam hari.
Ito lang ako marinig.
Na? No?
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on what side of the globe you're on. We have a virtual and face-to-face or blended forum. So we'd like to welcome you to the roundtable discussion on the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy. And it's actually also the launch of a report, of a global report, that resulted from a global research on the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy. The circular economy has become an important lever for change in tackling pressing resource and environmental challenges amid a world that is beset with multiple challenges and a multiple crisis. It's often characterized as a development, climate, health, and geopolitical crisis all rolled into one. And amidst that process, or amidst that crisis, one of the focus of a way forward is actually working towards a circular economy, which is about preserving, restoring, and regenerating natural resources in the process of growing our economy and developing our economy to meet the needs of the population of humanity. Yeah? So key circular innovation strategies in the circular economy include narrowing loops or the use of less resources per product, what is called slowing loops or consuming less and using products longer, closing loops or what may be considered post-consumer recycling, and regeneration or improving the natural and societal ecosystems amidst the fast depletion that's happening all over the world. While these strategies can help drive circular innovation, they give little guidance about the social impact that might be generated through social innovation. The transition to a circular economy is gaining momentum globally as businesses, governments, and civil society recognize the urgent need to shift from a linear take and make and dispose model to a more sustainable and regenerative approach. However, little has been researched about the intersection of the circular economy and what is called the social economy or even social entrepreneurship and how they can reinforce each other to face what are pressing environmental and social challenges, as well as actually processes for accelerating the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is in this context that a research study on the role of social enterprise in the circular economy was pursued by the World Economic Forum's Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship and IKEA Social Entrepreneurship. The commissioned research employed a methodology that actually used case studies, some of them which we are presenting today. In Asia, the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia participated in the research process, and together with Catalyst 2030 and the World Fair Trade Organization Asia, we mobilized the participation of social enterprises in the region to participate in the study. So in the report that you will see, and you can download actually, they include the cases of Gunj in India, Green Hope in Indonesia, Coco Bind in the Philippines, Green Net in Thailand, Celine in Sri Lanka, and XS Project in Indonesia. Of course, there are many other social enterprises involved in the circular economy, and we actually have featured as part of this forum today 2 other social enterprises that are not featured in the report, but we'd like to introduce to you as also participating in the circular economy as social enterprises, and that's Gandang Kalikasan, as well as also the Gandang Kalikasan and our cooperative of waste pickers in India. We also have, of course, in our audience here, members of the social enterprise community that are engaged in social economy initiatives such as Bote Central and the Philippine Coffee Alliance, even the Panyas social enterprise. City Hub, is also involved in it, and many others who may be online. I haven't seen who is online yet. But anyway, we are happy that our social entrepreneurs are fully with us this afternoon, because I think at the heart of the discussion today is the role and the practice of our social enterprises as they perform social and environmental transformation in our society. So inclusive loops, the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy, is the result of this global research, which was designed for social enterprises as well as other stakeholders to highlight different models, to explore the ways to address common challenges, giving social enterprises more visibility, demonstrating their importance in accelerating the transition towards more circular, inclusive, and equitable systems. The report also aims to mobilize the business community and other stakeholders and the broader supporting ecosystem, formulating recommendations that can help address the barriers hindering the growth of social enterprises as critical actors in the circular economy and their ability to scale their impact. This roundtable and launch in Asia Pacific intends to engage stakeholders and promote the findings of the research in the region. It endeavors to engage regional and local actors, including local governments, private sector, civil society, and social enterprises, which are sometimes called the trading segment of civil society. Yeah? And we're hoping that the initiatives that would be shared and the perspectives and reflections on the circular economy discussed today would impact on the practice of not only social enterprises, but the multiple actors we are hoping we can work together with that will have impact on sub-regional, national, sub-regional, regional, and global efforts. No? So the launch in Asia Pacific is actually following a global launch of the report that happened in December 14, 2023. I am Marilisa Dacanay, for those of you who don't know me. I am the president of the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia, and I will be moderating the session this afternoon. But before that, we would like to acknowledge the partners who were critical in organizing this launch and forum. First is the ESCAP Sub-Regional Office for Southeast Asia, Catalyst 2030, the World Economic Forum's Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship, IKEA Social Entrepreneurship, World Fair Trade Organization Asia, and the Ateneo Center for Social Entrepreneurship, of course, who's hosting us, and the Multi-Stakeholder Platform for Decent Work for All in Sustainable Value Chains. That's actually a mouthful, but it is the Multi-Stakeholder Platform that ISEA co-convenes with World Fair Trade Organization Asia, as well as the Asia South Pacific Bureau for Adult Education, to promote sustainable value chains, decent work, and the circular economy. To welcome us to our hybrid forum, we have a video recording from Mr. Ruhimat Sorakosoma. Ronnie, I hope I didn't murder your name. Or Ronnie for short, the head of the Sub-Regional Office of Southeast Asia at the ESCAP. He initiates work on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development among the Southeast Asian member states, in partnership with governments, international institutions, civil society, and private sector entities. He leads the cooperation of the UN with the ASEAN in the economic and social cultural areas under the framework of the ASEAN UN Plan of Action. So may I call on Ronnie, the head of the UNESCAP Sub-Regional Office, to give us the welcome remarks for this forum.
Maria Lisa Dacanay, President ISEA and co-convener Catalyst 2030 Southeast Asia, distinguished delegates, a pleasant good afternoon. I am very pleased to join you today at this very important event. Countries in the Asia-Pacific region will not achieve the SDGs by 2030. By our own estimation, fulfillment of that goal will be reached only by 2065. This roundtable discussion on the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy and the launch of inclusive loops, the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy comes at a critical period in the sustainability of the Asia-Pacific. With more than half of its population living in urban areas, the future sustainability of cities in Asia and the Pacific depends on innovation and integrating circular solutions for resource-efficient and resilient socio-economic development. Specifically, addressing the challenge of plastic waste and optimizing resource management requires an economic framework that prioritizes efficient resource utilization and waste reduction. An estimated 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic produced globally over the past decades, only 9% has been recycled, while another 79% has accumulated in landfills or the natural environment, and up to 13 million metric tons enters the oceans annually. If unchecked, the world's oceans will contain nearly 250 million metric tons of plastic by 2025. Over 80% of marine plastic wastes come from land-based sources, making plastic the most common type of marine litter. Countries with fast-growing markets and underdeveloped waste management systems in Asia may be responsible for as much as 60% of global plastic waste leakage. The Sustainable Development Goals have set a global agenda for change and contributes to transforming how businesses operate. Corporations are beginning to realign their priorities in the face of shifting consumer, investor, and employee demands. In addition, innovative business models such as social enterprises and inclusive businesses are emerging, purposely aiming to address social and environmental challenges through market-based approaches and to provide livelihood opportunities, products, and services to those at the base of the economic pyramid. These businesses are not just a trend, but a powerful force for positive change. Governments in the Asia-Pacific region have recognized their potential and spearheaded policies to enable such business innovations. In Southeast Asia, ASEAN has adopted a framework for circular economy to guide its journey towards sustainable development, emphasizing the importance of stakeholder participation and cross-sector collaboration. Here at ESCAP, we are working towards closing the loop by building tools and technology to help governments and organizations measure and monitor plastic waste within their cities. Several countries in Southeast Asia have already initiated the implementation of localized action plans, underscoring a strategic commitment to evidence-based approaches for sustainable urban development and waste reduction. Using innovations like artificial intelligence, satellite imaging, drones, citizen science, and waste flow modeling, we pinpoint the source to sea movement of how plastic leaks into the marine environment from cities. By fostering collaboration, innovation, and policy coherence, the region can chart a course towards a sustainable future in which circular principles underpin socio-economic prosperity and environmental stewardship towards the 2030 Agenda. Stakeholder engagement and promoting the findings of research in the Asia-Pacific region, such as this study, for example, plays a critical role in mobilizing action of local governments, private sector, and civil societies. In closing, may I extend my congratulations to ISEA and partners on the launch of the report and wish all of you a very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie, and to UNESCAP for actually co-organizing this with us. May I now call on Maxine Francois Ferraire. I hope I pronounced his name right. He's the person who will lead the sharing of the report of Inclusive Loops, the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy, which, as I've shared with you earlier, is actually the report we're launching today at the Asia-Pacific level. So Maxine Francois Ferraire is a senior manager on TechnoServe's strategic initiatives team. He's an experienced strategist, having worked as a principal for Kearney, a leading international management consulting firm. May I now call on Maxine to share the highlights of the report on the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy, which has been titled Inclusive Loops. Maxine?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this event. I'll share my screen for this short presentation that's aiming to cover the key highlights of the report. So you should be able to see my screen now. Let me know if that's not the case. So for context on the origin of this report, there was a recognition, I think, amongst the World Economic Forum's Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship members that despite the recognition that circular economy has become a predominant part of strategies to tackle pressing resource and climate challenges, there's been to date little focus on the social impact that might be generated through the circular innovations that are being developed across the globe. And there's little guidance about what shape or form the social impact can take, the new type of employment and organizational forms that social enterprises use in the circular economy, and the role of citizens and grassroots initiatives to generate the positive social outcomes. There is a need to scale what's already being developed at local and regional level to move from local circular networks and local circular economies to a truly global circular society. And our aim with this report was to deliver a foundational step in mapping and demonstrating the social and environmental impact of the social enterprises who are currently innovating and exploring circular solutions, but also entrepreneurs in larger organizations who are transforming the way these organizations operate. So this report aims to define this intersection between the social enterprises and the circular economy, laying out a framework to help both entrepreneurs and other stakeholders to better understand the strategies that can be adopted at this intersection, to give more visibility to successful social enterprises in the circular economy across the globe, many of which are with us today. And also help mobilize the business community and the broader supporting ecosystem, formulating recommendations to address the barriers that we've identified that are currently hindering the growth of those social enterprises in the circular economy. To do that and to perform this research, we adopted a collaborative approach, really working closely with the World Economic Forum Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship and its members, including international corporates, NGOs, and regional social enterprises. And we also engage with a variety of academics that are authorities in the field of circular economy and social enterprises, to make sure that our research was truly additional to what was already existing. But as I said, the key focus for us was to really hear and capture the perspective of the social entrepreneurs throughout the globe, and that's why we try to identify as many and really adopt a case study approach for this report to promote the work that some of those entrepreneurs are already doing. This map is just to show and recognize those entrepreneurs. The goal for us was to also capture as much diversity as possible. geographic diversity, of course, as illustrated here in this map. Also diversity of business models, diverse maturity levels as well in those organizations. And for that, we relied, as I said, on the Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship members to also introduce us to social innovators in their network. And the review of those 40 social enterprises was the core of the insights we were able to generate as part of this study. It enabled us to develop this framework that you can visualize on the screen. That's, I think, one of the key knowledge pieces that we've developed as part of the report, which characterize the various models and strategies that social enterprises and innovators are adopting in the circular economy. Just to describe it a little bit more, on the horizontal axis, you have the dimensions that I think you know well, and Lisa mentioned in her introduction, which are the dimensions of the circular economy, with the narrow on the left, which is using less resources per product, slow in the middle, which is about consuming less, using products longer, and the closed loop, which is about post-consumer recycling. What might be a little bit less familiar is the vertical axis and what we call the social impact pathway, which are effectively the models that social enterprises use to deliver social impact to beneficiaries. So at the top, you have the provider model, which is about selling a product or a service directly to the target group, or it's about selling a service to social enterprises to helping them run their company. Then on the middle, you have the employer model, which is about direct employment or work placement and integration of beneficiaries. And at the bottom, you have the buyer model, which is about sourcing material, products, or services from target group members, beneficiaries, or creating market linkages with those groups. What's interesting with this model for us is that it enabled us, on the basis of the analysis of the social enterprises we analyzed, to extract some interesting learnings. One was that, as you can see from this chart, that most social enterprises in the circular economy are using what we call the provider and employer model to create social benefits for their target groups. This is also true, I think, across the globe. The main difference is that buyer models are more prominent in lower income countries and is predominantly a function of the local context, of socio-economic, socio-demographic dynamics, of existing infrastructure and regulatory framework. Apart from this kind of more significant difference, we've seen that there's limited differences in the type of models, especially employer and provider models, that are used across geography. And these models have the ability to also increase the scale of the circular economy in connecting different parts of the world, which is very interesting from a kind of scaling impact perspective. Those provider and employer models also have other benefits, as it helps mitigate some of the negative externalities of of the circular models that we see. I'm going to go into that in the next page. That's one of the kind of three benefits we are highlighting, key benefits that we are highlighting from the social enterprises, is that social enterprises on one side tend to put a lot more emphasis on health and safety and quality livelihoods for the local communities, which help reduce some of the kind of negative externalities of some circular economy activities as they might have been performed by other economic entities. Also, traditional circular economy enterprises, particularly in higher income countries, may also look at maximizing profits by developing higher priced products in niche markets for consumers with more expendable incomes. And what we've seen social entrepreneurs do is focused on driving impact through what we call the provider model, by reducing the risk that the circular economy only grows in the high-income urban communities. Also providing more affordable products like construction materials, personal health products to those who cannot afford it. The other two aspects I've touched on is the increasing of the scale of the circular economy, and obviously the creation of social benefits for the target groups through the different models I described. This report was not only about analyzing the structure and the models that social enterprises were adopting, but it was also trying to better understand the challenges, specific challenges that social enterprises are facing in the circular economy and how we can help address those challenges collectively. And I will emphasize this collaboration aspect because it really emerges from many of the opportunities we've highlighted as part of this report. Just to give a few examples, we've highlighted 5 large kind of challenge and opportunity areas. The first 2 are related to supply and demand. So on the demand side is the ability to stimulate demand for those entrepreneurs, like creating awareness, and especially being able to compete on the affordability dimensions with products that come from a linear economy, which is often very difficult. And for that, one of the key things that we saw also from multiple examples was the power of the collaboration between social enterprises themselves, but also and mostly between social enterprises and larger private entities to develop sharper value proposition to better access in a more affordable way and consumers, also developing kind of hybrid revenue models. And a key part of that is how those larger corporate entities can better work in a more agile way, more collaborative manner with those social enterprises to be able to unlock that value. So that was for us a key area of focus, and I know that Green Hope is also going to speak later on and might touch a little bit more specifically about this. One big challenge area we also uncovered, which was not necessarily obvious for people initially, was around the supply and about the access to affordable and quality supply of material to enable slow and closed loop circular models. There's often there's effectively competition for material, and developing partnerships are key to be able to access this material and develop complementarity between businesses. So, for instance, it's about, examples of that is how larger entities can use their footprint. Let's talk about a retailer, for instance, to multiply the number of access points and collection points for recyclable material. So just giving a random example, but again, illustrating the value of partnerships. The other challenges we've highlighted are related to capabilities, capacity building in the workforce, but also more largely speaking in the communities, to really build the knowledge around circular systems thinking and hard skills required in the circular economy, which differ from what is traditionally expected in the linear economy. The fourth challenge we've highlighted is related to access to finance. Access to finance, and those two dimensions more related to how social enterprises are able to access existing financing solutions and how we can better support them to access those existing solutions, but also on the supply of those financing solutions is the required development of more tailored solutions for those specific entities that often have a triple bottom line focus, and which require different philosophy from the investors. And the fifth challenge and opportunity area we highlighted is related to the ecosystem. It's related to the infrastructure and the policies that are being currently designed and have been designed for linear models and that need to evolve to be more friendly to circular models. A key part of that is about the type of forums we're having today, giving the social enterprises a seat at the table, developing advocacy and support networks. And I think one of the goals of this report is really to stimulate that collaboration and to really promote social enterprises in the discussions, to make sure they are heard and to make sure ultimately that can influence decision makers. So finally, I've touched a lot on those different points, but what was important for us as part of this report was also to direct recommendations towards the broader supporting ecosystem. And we've categorized those into three. The first part is really related to capacity building for those social entrepreneurs, capacity building also for the communities those social entrepreneurs are working with. The second is about forging connections among private sector actors. As I mentioned, throughout those opportunities, one thing is clear is the value of collaboration and partnerships. And we need to stimulate those partnerships between organizations that maybe are not used to work together. And also make sure that there is an ecosystem that can provide the required knowledge and skill development opportunities and financing opportunities to those entities. And finally is the point I just mentioned before, is around advocating alongside those social entrepreneurs, making sure that they get a seat at the table in decision-making forums, and that we can collectively increase awareness of this specific field and the great impact that it generates for society, economic, social, and environmental impact. So this is, hopefully I've covered the most important aspects of the report. Just to close out, I wanted to say that, this is just a first stepping stone, and that there are a lot of areas still to explore to shed more lights on the benefits of the field and raise awareness, evaluating the transformative potential of those social enterprises and better quantifying the social benefits of the different models we described, for instance, or avenues we've highlighted for further research. To that, I will leave the floor for the next speaker, and we will eventually reply to questions later on in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxime, for such an enlightening presentation of the key findings of the report. No, so of course, Maxime shared with us the 3 main roles, the 5 challenges, and the 3 main recommendations, which I hope we can discuss later in the open forum. But for now, may I now call on some of our practitioner social enterprises who actually were featured in the report, so that we can see in clearer terms some case studies that actually dynamized the conclusions of the report that we're launching today. No? So our first speaker is from Indonesia, Tommy. Let me see if I can pronounce his last name right. Chiptajaja. Yeah. Very good. Okay. So Tommy co-founded and leads Green Hope as its CEO to help bring solutions to the use of plastic, no? And to help the world's unsustainable consumption and production problems. Before he became a social entrepreneur, he actually came from the business community, being part of India's top conglomerate group and the Boston Consulting Group. No? So he has left that life to join the social enterprise space, and he's now the CEO of Green Hope, as well as part of Catalyst 2030 in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. So may I call on Tommy?
Hello. Hello, Marie. Thank you so much, Marie-Lisa, and thank you so much for inviting us, ISEA, ESCAP, and all the others here, distinguished institution on the forefront of trying to make business to do good here, right? Or do business the right regenerative way. And it's very good to meet so many friends here. Maxime also is here. I learned a lot from the report, clearly. Katrina, if you're here also, hi. And Anna, yeah, Anna, we haven't met each other for a while. Sometimes we met in some of the forum events. It's great to be here. Generally, events like this always energize me, because it reminds me of what we are all about and what we are actually doing. So without further ado, let me just quickly share our learnings here on Green Hope. Yeah. Let's see if you can you all hear me talking? And can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is, I see this as really a sharing here of our journey so far, of our learning. We are actually a 7-year-old social enterprise in material innovation technology. And prior to that 7 years, my co-founder, actually Sugi, is the scientist. So he's way smarter than I am. He's the one who came from 40 years in plastic packaging background. So both of us are longtime friends at church, and he said that, hey, Tommy, I want to repent of my 40 years worth of sins. I'm like, whoa, that's a long time since you have there 40 years. But for me, I came from the business side. I really like to solve problems. I really like to stitch together various components to really deliver good value and impact to everybody. And I'm a believer that the future of business, by definition and vision and heart, should be a social enterprise, should have a more direct positive impact to the environmental and to the society as much as possible. Because the way we do business, what brought us here is far from enough to get us there, right? So the problem we are solving is really a plastic waste pollution, where the cost of doing nothing actually is too high. it's really a threat to our existence that will only get worse until it's solved. So this problem is like a monster that we keep feeding every year with our consumption. Now it's entering our babies, entering our bloodstreams, entering our lungs. So it's a very serious problem, but it's a very difficult problem to solve, admittedly. And part of the reason that it's difficult to solve, so the entire space is being disrupted right now, and there's a lot of money involved in the space. There's a lot of momentum of the status quo. And part of the reason that it's so difficult to solve is because the nature of the material itself. Plastic is a byproduct of oil, so it's a dirt cheap, very cheap, that gets polymerized through technology, and you combine it with a superior functionality. It's a very lightweight, very strong, very good oxygen barrier, can prolong the freshness of the food, a good protection, amazing plastic. But then the problem is how to save that cheap material yet strong and persistent after use. That is why the recycling rate, Maxime, and also the opening mentioned about only 9%, right? Whereas paper and steel on the other can be 55%. So this disruption is very, very hard to do. And there's a lot of recent disappointments and disillusion also. There's still a lot of homework for each solution. You know, there's a backlash over incinerating because of climate issue. There's a lot of investigation right now, including recently, about how even more advanced countries are exporting their plastic waste to developing countries, to Philippines, to Indonesia, to Vietnam, and all these others. These are real problems, real challenges. Recycling also create microplastics in all the surrounding area if they don't do the proper wastewater processing. Recycling rate in some places actually going down. Biodegradable also can be a problem if it gets put into a place where it won't biodegrade. So all solutions have homework to still be done. So our finding so far is that for circular economy to be transformative, innovation needs to happen at all levels. So this, what we mean by this is that technology needs to be updated. The material itself has to behave better at the end of life. And the process needs to be updated. The better sorting and collection system, tech-enabled tracking, provenance, and also social innovation, increasing awareness and changing people's behaviors. Any of this missing, we believe that it makes it very hard. So, and this has to be inclusive by definition. Otherwise, it's not sustainable by definition. If we leave a huge swath of people, most likely people who actually suffer from the pollution, then the whole thing actually doesn't work or miss the point. And these solutions, so whatever we design, the optimality of the solution changes depending on where's the culture, socio-economic level, infrastructure complexity, geographical complexity, climate. If your climate is very humid, moisture, your waste is very wet, the incineration process, the economic viability of it, very different. So all these things, I would say from our experience, no single country has solved the plastic waste pollution in a very holistic way. A lot of the advanced countries, even when they claim doing 3R, the zero waste to landfill, they dump and use our landfills in developing countries. just saying it as it is, because we have to recognize the problem, acknowledge so that we can solve it properly, right? Otherwise, we're just not going to solve it properly. So the popular solution, recycle, reuse, for instance, let's say 9%, double it to 20%. It's a very challenging proposition already. Reuse from whatever percent, let's say 20%, European Parliament's 2030 target, 10 to 20%. That gets into 30, 40%. How about the 60, 70% untreated plastic waste? What to do with those, you know? Should we reduce incinerators, pyrolysis? That is very challenging. So our findings so far is that we need to reduce where we can. It's in this order. We need to reuse where we can. If it's economically viable to recycle, we recycle. However, there's a lot of the stuff increasingly in developing countries where everything is in the flexible film model, your multi-layer packaging, garbage bags, seedling bags, and many other film types. These are net negative if you try to save the material, if you try to reverse logistics and collect it back. So better to make it biodegrade. That's our finding so far. That's where Green Hope solution in technology is. Now, in the report framework, we are fortunate in a way that we are on the narrow loop sense, where as a buyer, where if you see the supply chain of this plastic, right, from polymer producer to the waste, a lot of the effort is being done on the waste side. For clothing, for high value items, for fashion, you can do a lot on the waste side. But for plastic, especially low value plastic, it's super hard to get economic scale, to get economic viability at the downstream side. That's why in Green Cope, we also propose that upstream innovation should be part of the solution, because when you do upstream intervention, you will reduce downstream pressure on handling this plastic, or at least at the minimum change the economics of the downstream pressure. That's what the Green Hope's finding so far. We are actually create our own proprietary bioplastic that we are locally sourced from local farmers, called Nature Loop and EcoPlus. And then we have biodegradable additives that we work with conventional plastics to upgrade them to respond better to heat, moisture, to cleave the polymer chain so that fungi, microbes can come and bio-assimilate. So that's Green Hope. So we're active in many different things. And in terms of, let me move to some of the stuff. So the technology is, first of all, when we are claiming we are technology innovation, we need to prove that actually it's safe. Actually, it works, right? Otherwise, there's no point. So it's proven that our technologies do not create microplastic. We actually speed up the biodegradation of plastic as well as bioplastic to biodegrade all the way to become CO2, H2O, and biomass, especially in Southeast Asian weather conditions and hot and humid and tropical conditions. It works very, very well. Our Oxium actually was entered into UK journal where it demonstrated exactly that. Very prestigious journal. Now, this is also where inclusive coming in. With EcoPlus, not only we solve the end of life problem, which is biodegradation, we also solve the source problem, whereas we start to move into regenerative renewable source. So when we look into kg per kg, using the LCA life cycle analysis database, we see that it's actually 30% less carbon compared to conventional plastic. And if we use this bioplastic, it actually compostable, it actually biodegradable, and if collected separately well, it's also recyclable. But what's exciting on this is that it's got direct relationship with farmer cooperatives in our country and in many Asian countries, which is tapioca farmers. So this is where we zoom in a little bit here today. This is an example of where we create, not only we understand the science, we got the certification, how about in the real world, right? Then that's the question. So we create this aquarium and terrarium where we show that, look, if you leave the conventional plastic there compared to if you leave our bioplastics exposed to rain, to microbes, to whatever, then these are the picture of 6 months. Within 6 months, the conventional plastic are still there. A lot of them fragments into microplastics that you can't see. On the Nature Loop and EcoPlus side, they actually biodegrade faster. And when you biodegrade, think about what it does. It's actually feeding the microorganism. So when the soil have more microorganisms, that's why the weed grows much more than the conventional plastic control. So this is the kind of stuff we continuously doing research to ensure it's safe. For instance, on the left-hand side here, there's a negative impact on microalgae. When we put leftover of plastic, these are microplastics, they cannot assimilate. But if it's a leftover of oxygen, they're able to bioassimilate so they don't die. That's why the water is still green. It's a very important because microalgae is a single organism at the bottom of the pyramid of the food chain. If they die, the food chain could collapse in the sea. So if they can bioassimilate it safely, all the subsequent up of the food chain are much, much safer compared to conventional plastic. So what we thought of is that, what if we, through technology, we can connect the farmer cooperatives with the EcoPlus and Nature Loop source tapioca as the traditional output of Indonesia, and then we change it through our technology into bioresins, and we supply to many different brands in the world, Indonesia and the world, replacing many conventional plastic items that are too cheap, to contaminate, to distribute it, to be collected back, to be recycled. So nobody can ever recycle or the doggy waste bags. It's full of, sorry, the poop already, and it doesn't make sense to do that. Garbage bags, full of garbage already. Seedling bags, you plant it along with the seeds. So if this actually is proven not, this is not negative to the environment, the circularity can really create a positive impact in a direct way, rather than a two-step CSR process that people often do. So this is the kind of stuff that really exciting for us, and it's hard. To be honest, it's hard, not easy. And places like Japan, Korea, they really have the place to use bioplastic increasingly so to reduce their carbon footprint. So we're talking with some of the Japanese houses where, what if we get 1% of your shopping or waste bags that you're using, change it into bioplastics from developing countries? You can have a very positive north-south relationship. This is the kind of stuff that I think the report is covering about how social enterprise work with traditional inclusive communities. But the other piece that is important, this is where the Global Alliance for Social Enterprise is important. How about all the big companies of the world work with the social enterprise? So the linkages are very direct all the way to the beneficiaries. And we can trace their provenance. So all the major brands can also have social impact through technology. And we are, for example, we are doing projects with UNDP in Indonesia right now, where we are increasing the capacity building, habit transformation, enlarging the vision and ambition of our farmer co-ops. So a lot of them are ladies. Actually, in Indonesia, we have a lot of female farmers also. They're having different roles. They're doing the starch processing and everything compared to their husbands. But it's very exciting to see how they're actually thrilled about this. So we extract some key learnings. Actually, Maxime and I are writing a paper about this article, what we learned from this whole process. For instance, first of all, it's important to establish a shared vision or ambition. I don't know how it is in the Philippines, but in Indonesia, I don't know whether this is tropical culture or not, but when people have enough, then they just stop working. So if we try to connect with big companies, they need consistency on quality and quantity. So we need to have a better ambition there on it. Equally important, we need to map the ecosystem, the change agents, and those who resist changes. There will always be those people. We need oftentimes third-party support. We need all those people and map them. 3, what we learned is that we have to ask for fundamental change of way of doing things. We need to even to talk to all the way down upstream to the farmer co-op, say that, hey, the way you do things needs to change. If you sign up to this vision and ambition, you need to change your habit. You need to be more disciplined. We need this, of course, in a very persuasive stick and carrot way. Yeah? And then on the downstream actors, the brands who are working with us, we have to tell them, hey, you cannot walk us through your regular traditional purchasing process. You need to treat this as a separate a trial of new material as well as new social impact project combined and see how it works. And then we slowly work our economics and scale up the scale into a purchasing that is affordable. Third, fourth, blended financing will help. Some grants as well as some of our working capital is set aside for this project. It's very helpful because then we can take a risk that we wouldn't otherwise taken, because already trying to pay monthly salary, also my duty, right, and challenge. Build cadence and discipline to embed new habits and processes. That's some of the finding that we hope to share here, can be useful for a lot of friends here. These are some of the Green Hope downstream products. We did actually have projects with Paris Hilton. These are some of the examples where we do with the president large-scale planting using biodegradable seedling bags, where they don't need to tear it. They just plant the whole thing. When the seed grows, the roots grow, it doesn't impede the root growth, but also it doesn't pollute the thing. So let me stop here. I think we hope that there is a useful sharing, and thanks again for ISEA and everybody else who are launching this important report. And thanks for the hard work on the report, putting everything in the nice framework now. Now we know where we are. It makes us easier to know where we want to go to. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tommy. You could see that social enterprises really have a big transformative potential as actors in the circular economy. We now go to a second case study that's actually featured in the report, and this is GreenNet. Yeah? I'd like to introduce to you Bitun Panyakol, who's a prominent figure in the organic agriculture movement, not only in Thailand, but also internationally. He co-founded GreenNet, no? A leading organization promoting organic agriculture value chains and fair trade. GreenNet is actually a proud member of the World Fair Trade Organization Asia, promoting fair trade as social entrepreneurship in the Asia Pacific region. So without much more ado, I'd like to call on Bitun.
Bitun, I think you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Lisa, and good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Been interesting to listen and also read your report. I'll be quite quick with the presentation. Basically, GreenNet is founded on the two principles: fair trade, social issues, and organic, which is an environmental aspect. And we always work on these two basic principles as part of our work in the last 30 years. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we are quite old, 30 years old, started, and at the moment we have two organizations. One is the GreenNet Co-op, and the other one is the EarthNet Foundation, which is the non-profit foundation. And these two are sister organizations that working closely together to support the development of the organic and fair trade in Thailand and also in Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. So here is basically the the main products we have. In fact, we have about 40 different type of products, including t-shirt, cotton, non-food, cashew nut, and a few others, and all certified organic and fair trade. And the most important, next slide, please. So you can see we are not just working in one particular area. We are national cooperative, and we work from the north to the south. East to the west. Some of the project has sprung into a new companies, and we have quite a range of products that we work under the GreenNet system. Next slide, please. So this is some key fact and figures. Very small organization working. In fact, the numbers has also been reduced recently because of the COVID situation. But we still continue to expand in terms of production with our members. Next slide, please. I would need to say a little bit about the EarthNet Foundation. Although GreenNet Co-op is a registered social enterprise, I think the background work been done by the EarthNet Foundation, which is the non-profit part of our organization. And we are working not just with our own GreenNet producers. We also work and support many national and international development, organic and factory development in the regions. Next slide, please. So you can see we work as far as Taiwan to Laos to Myanmar and Indonesia. In fact, we have much more projects than these pictures. Next slide, please. Well, the achievement is that we are the leaders in organic agriculture. That we've been working not just on farmings, but also on fair trade in Thailand. And we also been working on the climate change adaptation, which is one of the areas which are quite neglected. I mean, a lot of people might be working on the mitigation side of the climate change, but adaptation, helping to support small scale producers is one of the areas that has not been many support work in this part. We have managed to expand and reach out. We started 30 years ago with only 10 farmers in two provinces, and now we are with our larger network. We working more than 2,000 families in the countries, and we also diversify from one single crop to many others. The strategic crops, including non-food, as I said, cottons, coconut, coffee, cashew nuts. Okay, the focus is this last slide, which is the achievement, and I would like to echo a little bit on the findings or the recommendation of the report. I think the key part of the success, particularly in the food business, is the quality of the products, which you need to have a good quality system. You cannot just say we are good to the farmers, to the workers, and good to the environment, but the quality of your food product is lousy. You will not be able to sell your products that way. So quality, consistent, high quality product would be the key. And that, of course, innovation on the quality assurance scheme or system that you have to build into your different stage of your work is, I mean, the quality assurance means that in every stage of the production handling until deliver of the products to the customer, to the final customers, have to be able, you would be able to control or check the qualities because at any stage of the supply chain, any mismanagement could lead to a low bad quality of the products. In fact, and food particularly quite critical because it's could affect the health of the consumers. Innovation, of course, as I said, is also important. And I think the report have highlighted this a lot in different areas. And I think the innovation doesn't have to be on the hardware or the software, but more on the way we work, the system of working. Okay, there is some background noise from some participants, suppose. Financial stability and stable partner is also critical. The last slide, the challenge, I think this is very much linked to the opportunities or recommendation that you would like highlighted in the report. There are, of course, now growing competitions. There's a lot of people talking about there are social enterprise, fair trade, and so on. And there's a lot of certification schemes, standard and regulations, but still many of these standard and regulation either are not so friendly. So I was quite happy to see the recommendation to be, it had to be circular friendly standard and regulations because that I think is quite key. I mean, a lot of standard and regulation require a lot of paperwork, and that's not very friendly at all to the social enterprise, particularly with small and medium size, and also the new startup. Second, the business activities. I mean, I think the world is changing very fast. I mean, you can see the COVID impact, which happened just the last couple of years ago, and it had changed the world completely, or quite completely, at least in the food business. And so the adaptations of the business to this changing world is also quite critical. I think one of the key issues which I think the report have highlighted is the unlock of the supply constraint of the SE is one of the important part because the population, I mean, particularly these farmers are changing. They're getting old, very old, and then also a young new children of the farmers start to take up the farmings, and so the way of extension work need to be changed and had to be developed to a bit more friendly to the new populations. The succession of the staff of the business is so important. I mean, we are 30 years old, so we are not really a startup. So we need to look for new generations to take over from the work. And that means also for the old staff, the training and retraining, which is highlighted in the recommendation, I think number 3, where the upskill and reskill of the staff is important. Where nowadays the use of the social media in the communication of your organization and your product is quite important. And I must admit that I myself, I belong to probably the old generation. I have difficulties in handling this new social media like TikTok or whatever things that not in the familiarity of my skills. And last but not least is the very hot topic of the climate change and the impact not on the farmers, the business, and even personal life. The last couple of days, at least in Bangkok, I don't know what happened in other country yet, but at least in Bangkok and in Thailand, the temperature is reaching 41, 42 degrees Celsius. And I must say my brain is probably has been cooked already and can't think anything properly anymore. I think the impact is not just on my brain, but also on the crop and the farmers' health themselves. And this is one of the most pressing issues that we need to address. Thank you very much. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Vitun. I think you touched on many important points related to the recommendations and conclusions. I was very much enthused that Vitun talked also about EarthNet, no? Because that's the nonprofit side of GreenNet, without which their transformational character will not be fulfilled. And of course, he was mentioning about the need for what we call, I think, in ISEA as hybrid financing. No? The financing packages that social enterprises need are actually a combination of grants and loans, and not just loans or enterprise financing. Of course, the problem of farmers growing old. No, I'm sure that every social entrepreneur working with farmers in any country will know, especially in developing countries in Asia, will know that aging farmers is a very important problem, affecting the supply side in a very profound way. Anyway, there are a lot of other realizations with the conclusions that Vitun shared, but at this point in time, I'd like to go to our third social enterprise speaker, who's actually the founder of Gandang Kalikasan, which is more popularly known as Human Nature. Human Nature is their brand, no, of natural and ethical personal care products. No? So Ana Meloto Wilk is the CEO and co-founder, and is actually part of the board of the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. And Ana has received numerous awards and recognitions for her work in human nature, including Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and also the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship in 2015. No? So without much ado, I'd like to call on Ana Meloto Wilk, the CEO and co-founder of Gandang Kalikasan, or Human Nature.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm happy to be here. I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Just the main.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to be here and see some old friends who've been really working on the social enterprise and the sustainability space. It's very happy to see the developments, what's happening in ASEAN and the rest of the world, as well as the framework that has been reported in this report, Closing the Loop. So I just wanted to share our story from the Philippines. So we are a 15-year-old social enterprise. We were my co-founders and I used to be volunteers for Gawad Kalinga, more on that later, which is a community development nonprofit organization that started in the Philippines. And all three of us were very much active in really the development side. But one of the biggest issues that we would always notice in the development space was the issue of livelihood and employment and sustaining that side of development. We are also all corporate, so I came from advertising and fast-moving consumer goods. I was in my last corporate stint was in Nestle. My sister, my co-founder, was part of Body Shop, and the last co-founder, my husband Dylan, was is actually an entrepreneur. This is his second business. His first was one of the very first, if not the very first, e-commerce businesses to go public in the London Stock Exchange. So they sold computer games online through TV before the whole internet thing exploded. So coming from that perspective of development as well as a corporate background, this was really the issue that we've been wrestling with. If I can just there. So it's about in-work poverty. World Bank study found in 2016 that it's not actually unemployment that was the biggest challenge in the Philippine labor market. Rather, it was underemployment because a big chunk of our population are employed, but a lot of them are in the informal job sector, as we all know, in a lot of developing countries. And so the Philippines, although we were enjoying a lot of economic growth, the disparity and the share of this progress was inequitable. As we know, the rich are becoming richer, but the poor were also becoming poorer. And inflation in the last couple of years has really just skyrocketed and made this such a huge problem. In fact, a lot of our middle class are falling below that socioeconomic bracket because of these economic issues that we have been experiencing, and wages have been stagnant for the most part. A lot of the employment practices in the Philippines are really not beneficial for Filipino workers. And so despite a lot of them working 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, there was still a lot of them were still in poverty, living in slums, not being able to provide for all of the needs of their families. So this is also why the Philippines is one of the biggest suppliers of overseas workers. The diaspora has been going on for generations because many of our local businesses are not able to provide the gainful employment that we need to live a decent life. So apart from stagnant minimum wage, we also have contractualization that really prevents Filipino workers from having security, job security, or even upskilling, proper training. Hence, we have unmotivated workers, and the more motivated ones, the more ambitious ones have long left the country for greener pastures. As I mentioned, all three co-founders and we were part of Gawad Kalinga. We were volunteers for many years, and our dream even now in as we move on from development phase to like more of a hybrid, putting in our corporate and business experience with really making sure and finding out how business can solve some of our biggest problems. So we founded our company in being, of course, benefiting our country, meaning local sourcing, being able to partner with farming communities. So that's under the Pro Philippines value. Second was Pro Poor. So we have like a intentionally reaching out to the underemployed, reaching out to the unskilled workers and training them, upskilling them to be able to really have more of upward mobility, whether they stay with us or they move on to other companies. And the last piece is the pro-environment part, because the industry that we are in, although it's fast-moving consumer goods, which is what I'm familiar with, we really wanted to kind of change the way this industry was being done. First, in the sourcing of our products, second, in the formulating of our products, and then finally in the packaging and distribution. So I'll just give you a little sneak peek of how we're doing that. But we moved into the cosmetic and home care space. So this is our brand, Human Nature, and some of our taglines are beauty with compassion. So we formulate and we manufacture and we market personal care products like facial washes, shampoos, pet care products, home care products like laundry detergents, dishwashing soap, massage oils, and the like. And a lot of these ingredients, as much as possible, whatever we can source from locally, we use local ingredients. For example, virgin coconut oil, lemongrass, citronella, um, organic sugar for our scrubs and all of these things. And this was really born out of the consumer need that I saw when I was just a young a parent, that there was a growing trend moving towards biodegradable products, products that were good for human safety standards, but also did not pollute the environment. So whenever you flush down our products into the drain or use them for your laundry, you're not worried about polluting the groundwater and for your sunscreens to actually be causing coral bleaching, because we don't use any of the harmful ingredients like phosphates and those kinds of ingredients that also cause harm to marine life. So in terms of our standards, we abide by these standards. A lot of them we've built up over the years, but also majority of them we've had from the very beginning. So at least 95% natural. If ever we have palm-derived ingredients, they must be RSPO certified. We abide by the Environmental Working Group guidelines, which is a um, Washington-based organization that rates ingredients, whether they are safe for human use, or they rate them also in terms of like environmental safety. And all of these things, before we even use them in our formulations, they have to pass all of these stringent standards. So we're a 15-year-old company since we started in 2008, operating from just a small house in Quezon City. In the beginning, we did all the research, the product development, supply chain sourcing. But our very first employees were also the residents of the Gawad Kalinga communities, the communities that we were volunteering for before. And many of them came from scavenger communities, or some of them were just out of school youth. Some of our store managers now are just high school graduates, and they were sharing with us that they never thought that they would have such a position, because they didn't even uh, step into university. But a lot of the things that we've learned is that you don't need to go to college to be a good store manager, for as long as you have a good training program and you believe that your workers have the drive and the ability, the potential to really contribute, that they will really rise to the challenge. So these are some of our partners. We have modern trade, we have e-commerce. We have also opened our own plant here in the Philippines, when we realized that we couldn't really control the wages of our supply partners if we were outsourcing them. Because at first we were toll manufacturing, but we had no say, for example, in the being able to provide the right living wage for the people in the production lines. So we decided to open our own plant. That was the same thinking behind our merchandising force, which is the biggest department that we have. We have over 100 people just stocking the shelves and making sure our inventories are optimal in a lot of our modern trade accounts. Because in most companies here in the Philippines, the merchandisers and the production staff are all contractual. They're only hired for 5.5 months, and after that, they're let go and they have to find employment somewhere else. But for us, we've made them permanent positions and regularized all of our employees in those departments as our way of really kind of changing the way the responsible employment is happening in the Philippines, and really security for the Filipino workers. So we're now in 3 work sites, including our manufacturing plant. We have over 600 employees. We have about 21 of our own branded stores all over the Philippines, apart from distribution in all of these modern trade and e-commerce accounts. But on the kind of community building side and on the social side, these are some of our key company policies. So first and foremost, that's ensuring that we provide a just and dignified wage and employment to all of our workers by providing, as I mentioned, living wages, regular contracts for permanent positions, and ensuring that they get proper rest. So why is it important that we all are not working on Sunday? Because it's possible, you can say, for most businesses, we just have rotating um, day offs, but we are a family focused company and we wanted to align all of our day offs so that all of our employees would be able to spend time with their families. I'll also be sharing with you one of our child friendly or family focused and women parent focused programs in the company, because we really see our company as a way of providing decent quality of life. We are a profit making company. We need to be sustainable, but it's because we want to make sure that we provide secure, gainful employment and ensure that our partners, our employees, everyone who is kind of doing business with human nature is also able to live out the fullness of life that we advocate for. So this is just like a snapshot of like how our living wages. As you can see, it's the Philippine minimum wage has been pretty flat for the last 15 years, but as our company has started to really gain momentum and increase our sales, we've really tried to keep in step with by sharing that value to our employees. One other driver that keeps us constantly reviewing our internal minimum wage, as I mentioned earlier, is the inflation. It's really been very, very challenging, especially here in the Philippines, where the buying power of the peso has really dwindled, and it's getting harder and harder to buy healthy food, send kids to good schools. So we really reviewed every year how we can help them to, and how they also can share with us how we can provide better programs for fullness of life in all of these different aspects. I mean, it's not an original idea. I just wanted to share this this historical tidbit about how the living wage was, talked about even 100 years ago by a huge American well-known brand like Ford, and it was not because he was a bleeding heart or a philanthropist, or he wasn't even like a social kind of fighter for equal rights and or anything like that, but it's more because he wanted to increase productivity in his factories, and he found that living wages really decreased the absenteeism and really increased the motivation of his workers. So it's kind of like the same principle that we're applying here in human nature. As for the no work on Sunday, I just wanted to share this interesting tidbit also, because as I said, although we're in the malls and we pay a penalty for closing on Sundays, fortunately our customers are loyal enough to be able to offset the penalties that we have to pay, so that Monday to Saturday our sales are able to make up for the penalties that we have to pay on a Sunday to the malls that do not allow closing on Sundays. But it's just an interesting tidbit that just these two fried chicken chains, Chick-fil-A and KFC, Chick-fil-A is one of the most sought after franchises in the US because each store brings in about $190,000 to $200,000 per month, and they're only open Monday to Saturday, so 6 days a week. Whereas KFC, which is a much bigger brand, and they're open 7 days a week, their average franchise revenue is only $92,600. So Chick-fil-A actually is double the revenue and double the profitability of KFC. So I think there's something to be said about, not being scared of really giving our people the day off because they're more motivated. They're able to really bring in more value to the company as well. And then going back to, just related to the family focused values that we have, we opened our company daycare. So we actually opened this even before the pandemic, when we realized that one of the unintended consequences of employing women as the sole breadwinner in the slum areas and in impoverished areas was that the children, especially the small ones, were being left behind to fend for themselves. A lot of them were latchkey kids, and we just couldn't really allow that to happen. So we opened a company daycare, and these are just some of our latest graduates. We had to move to online during the pandemic when we had to close all of the schools, and we had to move to online, but we've just recently reopened, and these are some of the children that we have, even as young as 4 months. 4 month olds, and their parents are just a few steps away from them. They can breastfeed, they can check on their children, they can work and pick up their kids once they're done. So these are just some of the things that we've been doing on the social aspect as well. I guess another aspect is the no contractualization. I've touched on this already. A lot of hard to convince Filipino companies to really push for this because of cost. And we always kind of promote low labor costs in the Philippines as a reason for foreign investment, but not realizing that it's not really the low labor cost that is going to yield the gains and the value. There's so many other social issues and barriers to investment, such as high utility costs in the Philippines. That is a bigger contributor than just low labor costs. So I really do not buy kind of this reasoning that we have to keep labor costs low, because people are biggest assets, and motivated and trained, skilled workers have so much more ideas, which I will show in the circularity and the sustainability piece, where they've really delivered in terms of being able to help us meet our extended producers responsibility obligations. Just last on our social aspect is really partnering with our kind of farming communities. Our impact is beyond our employees, but our supplier communities. And we engage them through fair trade sourcing, investments in equipment, and trading. And even when it's cheaper to source from other countries, if there is a supply, a local supply, then we will still favor local sourcing for all of our products. And just on our sustainability initiatives, as you can see here, these are some of our strategies. The biggest contributor to reducing plastic waste is the upsizing of bulk packaging to reduce waste. So we've done away with smaller bottles. We don't have sachets, which is the biggest kind of contributor to marine plastic and landfill in the Philippines. Our bulk packaging reduces plastic by about 72% per weight. So this has been a huge strategy for us. Shifting to dry format formulations, basically taking out the water in our formulations and just selling the waterless formulations, and that can easily be packaged in biodegradable packaging. We've also reduced plastic packaging by shifting from films to paper in our soaps, which is a huge share of business for us. We've also experimented with grassroots refilling in community stores, and we actually have refilling stations in a lot of our company-owned stores. Most recently, because of extended producers responsibility law, we've started to also accept competitor brand bottles in our stores. So we don't just accept human nature branded bottles, because we want to be able to really recover whatever we put out in the market. So this is our way of offsetting our plastic waste footprint. And one of the most encouraging campaigns that we've had in our drive to really reduce our plastic waste is these are our employees who have each been given a monthly quota to bring in plastic. So every employee brings in X number of kilos depending on their department. At first, I thought they were going to complain a lot, but when I shared to them that we had to recover 40% of the plastic that we put out for all of our products by the end of the year, they really rose to the challenge, and a lot of them changed the way they did life. Now they're not just, they've learned how to segregate, they've learned how to clean and dry, because we wouldn't accept any of these plastic for recovery if it wasn't clean and dry. So you can see here in the lower portion that even in our offices, they're cleaning and drying, and we have people from all walks of life. This is our driver, this is our head of sales, she's our marketing manager, this is our digital marketing manager, and some of our creatives are really kind of had a community effort, such that in just the first 4 months of the year, we were able to collect more than 1.4 metric tons just from our employees. That doesn't include our corporate efforts and our waterless formulations and our refilling and all of these things. But people just, with a competitive spirit and friendly competition, and just really happy to contribute, to know that they're part of something good, something that's really benefiting not just themselves but the planet as well. So I guess this is just a short sharing of what we've been doing so far on the social aspect and on the sustainability aspect. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anna. And you could really see that social enterprises contribute to transforming not only the environment, but also to transforming the lives of workers as well as supplier communities. No? Thank you, Anna. Our fourth speaker for today is someone from India. No? So we've gone from Indonesia to Thailand to the Philippines and now India. Our speaker is from Hasiro Dala, which is actually a cooperative serving waste pickers based in Bangalore, India. No? Bianca, her last name is, she's Bianca Fernandez, has been working on the livelihood vertical of the cooperative for the past 2 years. She focuses mainly on dry waste collection centers and coordinating with stakeholders to make them ensure that segregation is done as a mandatory process. Yeah? And she has created a lot of awareness material as well as content on solid waste management for use by their stakeholders in India for purposes of promoting a circular economy. And she's also the coordinator of the Alliance of Waste Pickers in India. So without further ado, I'd like to call on Bianca Fernandez from Hasira Dala.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here at this prestigious roundtable, and congratulations to all the social enterprises that have been doing some amazing work. I would like to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Is that okay? Are you all able to see my screen? Can somebody?
Yes, we can see it, Bianca. Thanks.
Okay, before I start with my presentation, I have one of the waste picker leader here, Kumuda. I think you can see her. Kumuda, hi, Haley. Hi. Hi. Yeah. Before that, I'll just talk a bit about what Hasiru Dala is. So Hasiru Dala is a waste picker non-profit organization that works for the social impact of waste pickers. So whatever Hasiru Dala does benefits the life of waste pickers. So our aim is to actually integrate waste pickers to the solid waste management and livelihood regeneration in the city, and social protection for all waste pickers, and actually collaborate with all the local governments to promote decentralized waste management in the city. So, Hasrudala works in almost 18 cities and 64 villages in the state of Karnataka in India. So, our approach is very simple. So, our approach is that we act as a bridge between the waste pickers and various other stakeholders that are there in the system. So, we work with citizens to create awareness on solid waste management. We work with elected representatives. We work with other NGOs. We work with local government, we work with schools, and all of these different stakeholders that are there in solid waste management to create a larger impact in the city. So we are just a bridge between waste pickers and the other stakeholders. And we co-create strategies and solutions with the community of waste pickers. Some of the areas of our work, so these are the major 10 verticals that we work in Hasrudala. And I will be focusing only on three verticals that is relevant to the circular economy. So few of the verticals that we work is Bugri, that is the children's program for the waste pickers. Then Hasiru Money is actually a housing project for waste pickers. So before I forgot to tell you that Hasiru Dala means green force in local language of Karnataka, that is Kannada. And this name was actually given by the waste pickers itself. So Hasiru Mane is greenhouse, and we identify schemes from the government to provide housing for waste pickers, and we have different climate change initiatives that we do in the houses of waste pickers to adapt to climate change. Then we have the health vertical where we have regular health camps in the community of waste pickers as well as dry waste collection centers. Then we have the livelihood vertical. So in this vertical, the waste picker actually collaborates with the local government and collects dry waste in the city. So they have an agreement with the local government. Then we have the waste picker and a resource organization like us. And we support waste pickers in collection of dry waste in the city of Bangalore. Then we have the ocean and waterways where we have a city called Mangalore, which has beaches and ocean nearby. So a lot of cleanup drives and all of that happens, and this is recovered through waste pickers. Then we work a lot with policy. So we are a part of Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, that where we largely work with the central government and the local government and make sure that waste pickers are integrated in solid waste management. So we were very instrumental in getting waste pickers name added to the solid waste management rules of 2016 in India. And also in the local government, we have made sure that waste pickers are part of solid waste management by running the dry waste collection centers. And recently, there is a great achievement where in the plastic waste management rules of 2016, we worked with the Ministry of Environment and Forest, made sure that waste pickers are a part of collection and sorting of dry waste, that going further that every local government has to integrate. Then we have the recycling facility where we make multi-layered plastic bows, because these multi-layered plastic usually goes to landfills. But this was a way of diverting waste from landfill. So we make boards which can be used instead of plywoods. Then we have a lot of research work what we do. So you can go to our website and look at all the waste management researches we do, informal workers in solid waste management, and about waste pickers. Then we have the biggest, that is our social security vertical. So this vertical engages with the waste pickers community, goes and talks to them, tells them why social security is important. So these waste pickers at one point did not have houses, did not have identity, they did not have dignity for the work they do. So what our social security team did was go to the community, ask them, tell them why social security was important, and then provide them with actual ID cards for the work they do. So we have an occupational ID cards for our base because in Bangalore and different cities where we work, and you can actually ask Kumuda, like, how her life has changed before the ID card and after the ID card. Before, they were treated like thieves, and police would harass them, but right now, because of the ID card and the work they do, people respect them and call them to their houses and actually take tips for, waste management in their houses and their apartment complexes. Then we have the Zero Waste Initiative, where we make campuses, wards, neighborhoods in the city of Bangalore zero waste. So whatever waste is generated in the campus or an apartment is managed in the apartment complex itself. Just that the products that needs to go for recycling goes out of the complex, but otherwise everything is managed in the complex itself. So these are our major verticals that we work in Hasrudala. So, as I told you, social security is something what we provide from the beginning. That is, it's been 10 years since we are working, and under the social security umbrella, we have the housing, education, financial support, and healthcare that we provide to the waste pickers. And this is the first ID card that was provided. If you can see towards the right end of this thing, the first ID card that was provided, and it says occupation as waste picker, and it was provided by the local government of Bangalore. Then we have the livelihood vertical, where I told you we have dry waste collection centers in Bangalore. So you can see the vehicle towards the here towards the right end of your screen. So the waste picker, that is Kumuda, runs a dry waste collection center where she's been working since 3 years. Starting, she used to get just few kgs of waste, and now she gets almost 1.5 to 2 tons per day. And this is just not just by going and collecting waste. She has a team of almost 12 to 16 members. She goes and creates awareness every day with the residents. She goes to the local government and talks to them about why you need vehicles for collection, and why their work is important. She goes to different colleges and talks to students about why you need to segregate your waste. So we professionalize waste because to be service providers. And Kumuda was once picking up waste on the road, and right now she runs an enterprise like a company. And she files her she gives ESIPF, and then some waste because also file income tax with the government. So these are the changes what we have seen from 10 years what we've been working with the waste pickers. So, inclusion and waste management. So, as a fact, 58% of the world's recycled waste is actually collected by waste pickers, but they are the actual brunt of, say, like harassment, and they are treated as thieves, and they live in acute poverty, and actually they face the brunt of climate change because these waste pickers usually stay in communities which are low lying, and due to heavy rains, they are affected by floods. And even say now it is very hot right now in India, and they face like say heat waves and things like that. But they are actually the environmentalists who actually reduce waste on ground because they kind of do the actual sorting and segregation of dry waste. So why waste management needs urgent action is because it is the biggest contributor to climate change. Landfill, because of which there's landfill created, and there's a lot of methane gases, toxins that come out of landfill. And plastic waste has staggering figures of pollution across land, water, and soil. So I think the best solution, what we are talking in this roundtable is, we need to move from take, make, throw economy to circular economy to protect our silent environmentalists, that is the waste pickers. So what is common among all of these pictures, what you see here, all of these are waste pickers who were picking up waste on street, say 10 or 15 years back. and they were nano enterprises, but right now they have shifted to professionals, micro enterprises. So all these are waste pickers who have become waste picker leaders right now. And we have been working with almost 25,000 families of waste pickers in the state of Karnataka. So these are few newspaper articles that we have saved at the beginning, where waste because articles were written, and how they have from waste because become successful managers. um, so the investment from Hasirudala. So as a non-profit organization, what we really did was organizing. So organizing is one of the most important part, what we thought is important. So waste pickers are scattered all over the place, but organizing them to one place and making them understand the importance of different schemes and social security is very important. Then providing them an identity for the work they do and providing them with dignity for their work was very important. And that is what we got through by getting them an occupational ID card. Then the most important was training. So these waste pickers are very skilled in what they do. Like I can touch a material and I can just say, okay, it's plastic or different kind of material. But they know every bit of it, and they can say whether it can be recycled, non-recycled, how many times it can be recycled. But what they needed was training. So when you work with the local government, or when you work with any apartment, you need to be a little professional. So that's what we did. We supported them in providing, say, trainings like leadership training, climate change trainings, climate champion trainings, financial training. So when you're working with government, you need to have a lot of compliances in place, a lot of documentation in place. So these waste pickers have studied just say to 10 standard, and some have not even studied. But there are exceptional leaders in waste pickers who have not studied. So one of our waste picker leaders, she speaks in plastic treaty. Right now she is in Canada, and she doesn't know how to read and write, but through voice recording she listens to all the sessions, and she's representing Asian waste pickers in plastic treaty right now. And a second was financial inclusion opportunities in different groups, which I will be talking later in next two slides. And capacity building for data keeping, managing finance, and providing different financial services to the team what they work with. So see now what are the challenges? So now waste pickers, why is waste pickers important in circular economy? Is one is they are very important for resource recovery, as they reintroduce the material to again the same plastic value chain or any value chain in the waste. Then is reduced environmental effect because they divert waste from landfill. Third is improved recycling rate, because when they get it into the dry waste collection center, they distribute it and sort it and send it to the perfect recycler where it needs to go for recycling, and very cost effective. So in the study in 2015, where Hasrulala did a study, we realized that waste pickers are actually saving 84 crores to the local government through their work. And we have also done a study, that is the GHG study, where we did 8 dry waste collection centers were actually emitting about 1,074 carbon that was saved from the road. So these are different kind of studies that we have done where waste, because if you integrate to the solid waste management, it's actually very cost effective. So now what has happened is there are a lot of different challenges that the waste pickers are facing because of, say, different credits are coming in place, plastic credits, carbon credits, and a lot of compliances are coming in place. So what is happening is a lot of informal value chain in the market that is created already in India. Say there are waste pickers, informal aggregators, scrap shop dealers. But if these new compliances come in place, these old say aggregators or recyclers will be displaced if new compliances come in place. And these people need what to say, like capacity building and financial resources for capacity building and to actually compliance to the, say, government. So they need, like, say, income tax compliance. They need help from the government or the Ministry of Corporate Affairs compliances. Then they need to build technical capacity, basic computer knowledge. So what waste pickers have is volume and the value that they get through the waste. But what they actually lack is financial and technical ability. And that is what we are asking here, is to actually fund them for getting financial and technical capacity, which they will improve. And we have seen waste pickers who have become waste picker entrepreneurs through helping them through trainings and providing them assistance. So these are some of the things what we thought that government can do, is actually identify financial schemes for the waste pickers, provide them with good infrastructure, help in labor compliances, and health and safety compliances. Then what the private sector can actually do is actually help in capacity building, data collection for waste pickers, and support them with different studies like feasibility studies to actually access different financing mechanism. Then building awareness and knowledge sharing. Then actually support like organizations like hers who actually support these marginalized or informal waste pickers or waste workers, and help in building a collaborative network to support ecosystem for informal sector, and advocacy and policy engagement for financing mechanism. I think this was just a very basic presentation of what we do and what we do with waste pickers. But I would like to invite Kumuda to just talk about her experience. It will be not take more than 2 minutes, and I would like to translate it for her. Yeah, Kumuda, ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಹ. 2 ನಿಮಿಷ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಹೇಳಿ, ನಿಮ್ ಹೆಸರು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೊದ್ಲು ಹೇಗಿದ್ರಿ, ಈಗ ಹಸಿರು ದಳ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳಿ, ನಾನು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ.
ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಕುಮುದ ಅಂತ. ನಾವು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ತಮಿಳ್ನಾಡು, ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ, ಇವಾಗಿರೋದು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು. ನಾವು ಬಂದವಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಐಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನೂ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವಾಗ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ. ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ ನೀನು.
So she said that she was from another part of India, but then she came to Bangalore and she didn't know anything. And she would just pick up waste, and then police would treat her like thieves. And she did not have any sort of identity card or anything in place. Really.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹಸಿರು ದಳ ಬಂತು. ಬಂದಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಆಗಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಐಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ರು, ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ BBMP ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಐಡಿ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆಧಾರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರು ಅದು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಆಧಾರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಂದಿದ್ರೆ ಆಧಾರ್ ಕೂಡ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಡ್ರೈವೇಜ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರ್ ಒಂದು ಸುಮಾರು 10 ವರ್ಷ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಡ್ರೈವೇಜ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದು. ಅದು ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದು. ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು.
Okay, so then after she came to Hasrudala, she got different sort of ID cards that she didn't even know. Then after she got the occupational identity card, then she was given the dry waste collection center where she runs it now. So it's been 10 years since she got the ID card, and then now she's operating the dry waste collection center.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬರೀ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಪೀಕೆ ಹತ್ರ ಬರೀ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ ಮಾತ್ರನೇ ಒಂದ್ 2 ವರ್ಷ ಇತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಡೋರ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ 2017 ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣ ಸಿಕ್ತು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದಾನೆ. ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಅವರು, ನಮ್ಮ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿಯಿಂದಾನೆ, ಹಸಿರುದಳ ಕಂಪನಿಯಿಂದಾನೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಕೊಡಿಸಿದ್ರು.
Yes. So what she said was that, when she just came, she did not have anything, but through social security, she got to know what are the benefits she could receive from all of these ID cards. And that is what she received from the social security team. And now dry waste collection center, at the beginning, they did not have door-to-door collection, but right now she goes door-to-door. So she has been given a neighborhood by the local government. She goes to door-to-door and collects dry waste from these centers, from these houses. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಈಗ ಇದು ಹೇಳಿ ಕುಮುದ ಅವ್ರೆ, ನೀವು ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿದೀರಾ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಿಮ್ ಜೊತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೇಗೆ ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಕಟ್ರಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ.
ನಮ್ಗೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅದೇ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಟ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ನಮ್ಗಂತ JP ನಗರ್ ಜೀರೋ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ವಾ, ಅವಾಗೆ ಒಂದ್ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಫುಡ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದವ್ರು. ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ಡೈಲಿ 2.5 ಟನ್ 3 ಟನ್ ಹೊರಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಇವಾಗ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 22 ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ. ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ 20 ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ರು, ಒಂದ್ 10 ಜನ 5 ಜನನೇ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇವಾಗ 20 ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, 20 ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವಾಗ. ಅದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಬೇರೆ ಸುಟ್ಟೋಯ್ತಾ, ಸುಟ್ಟೋಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾರು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಒಂದು ದಿನ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಕೆಲಸ ನಿಲ್ಸದೆ ಗಾಡಿ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಕೆಳಗಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದೀವಿ. ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನೇ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಸಿರದಲ್ಲೇ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾರಣ.
ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಕುಮುದ ಅವರೇ. ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ದಾಯ್ತಾ. So, so what she was saying is that government, that's local government, had provided her with a dry waste collection center, which was above what do I say, like a sump or where the waste goes. So what she did was she wanted a bigger center for herself, and in the screen you can see towards the right end of the corner. That is the center that she built with her own money, because what the local government had provided was not sufficing for the amount of waste that used to come in. So this was a dry waste collection center, what she built, and that is her team, what you're seeing. And but it got burnt last year, and she rebuilt the entire dry waste collection center with her own money. And she did not even stop one day of collection of dry waste from households. All her friends of operators, that is the other waste pickers, came and helped her to go and collect waste the very next day after the dry waste collection center was burnt. And she redid the entire center within, I think, 2 months of the fire. And she also recently won most inspiring women entrepreneur by the CTI, that's the Confederation of Indian Textile, because she collects textile waste separately through another initiative of ours. So she won the most inspiring women entrepreneur. Yeah, so this was about Hasrudala, and this is one more waste picker, Indumati, who won one of the most prestigious award of the city. That's the social entrepreneur of the city, and these were the finalists, and among them Indumati was the winner of this award. Yeah, and this is about Hasrudala and what we do. Thank you so much for calling us and making up as a part of this roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bianca, and our friend among the waste pickers. I didn't get her name. Kumuda, yeah. Thank you for the inspiring story. And here we see waste pickers as stakeholders of the circular economy. And I think what's very clearly put forward, which was actually a theme that started with the earlier discussions, is the role of social enterprises in enabling marginalized stakeholders, in this case, waste pickers, as stakeholders of the circular economy. Thank you very much. We now go to our panel of reactors. Our panel of reactors come from UNDP as well as the academe. Our first panel of reactor is Engineer Voltaire Acosta, the Deputy Project Manager of Green LGU's program of UNDP Philippines. So may I call on Engineer Acosta.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have a little presentation also to make, but I will intersperse it with the learnings I've heard so far, which are very inspiring, especially in the context of circular economy. I'm not sure if its presentation is also there. Yeah. Okay, so just while waiting for the presentation, there's a lot of opportunities, not just for the social benefits of the people and society from circular economy, but there's also social opportunities from circular economy. And yeah, next slide, please. And learning from the examples that we've had a while ago, just for a bigger picture, what circular economy is, It's broad, it's multi-material, it's multi-application, but it actually is anchored on the 10R principles. It's refuse. I've heard elements of recovery and recycling, but there's a lot more R's to the circular economy, which includes refurbishing, rethinking, redesign, repair, remanufacture, and all the other R's. So from the 4 case studies, I think we have an example about recycling and recovery, which is from Hasiru Dala, and also a little bit because composting is also considered as recycling, although we're just recycling nutrients. So we would consider also Green Net in there. Bioplastics by Green Hope and Human Nature, they are also making the right choices of technologies, products, and packaging that is also included by reduction by design. So we see that all the case studies fit into the picture of the circular economy landscape. There's also different types of materials. I think there are 3 examples that deal more with plastics, although the last presentation would deal about dry waste in general. But there's one example about organic waste. But there's more materials to tackle: textile, glass, paper, cardboard, and other e-waste even. So there's so many other areas of circular economy in there. Next slide, please. Yeah, just to share with you the UNDP PH portfolio, not just in the Philippines, but a lot of them actually are shared by our UNDP country offices across the ASEAN region, which we coordinate through Bangkok Regional Office. UNDP is working on the evidence-based information. Also, policy support. There's a mention already about extended producer responsibility, circular economy, action plans, and all. And we also have demonstration projects, among which is actually the project that we're handling now, the Green Algae project, but also the EPIC that is also run across Southeast Asia. And and looking at the entire portfolio and systems of circular economy landscape. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think it has been mentioned also in the introduction to about the ethnographic research that we did. So the entry point that we had in that particular case was at the city level, but as we have learned a lot from this afternoon session, it's difficult to just look at circularity just as a technological solution. And a lot of people think that way. I need the technology, I need facility, yeah, hey, I'm already doing circular economy. But if we're not looking at the different lenses from different stakeholders, we are missing out on a lot, and the sustainability aspect is not there. Among the key findings actually is resonated from the discussions earlier. Diversity as a feature. We have seen a lot of inclusivity from Green Hope, Green Net, Human Nature, and Hasirodala. Structure as an enabler. I think it was also emphasized by Green Hope a while ago about sometimes people and stakeholders getting lost because there's no shared goal or direction. If I were to just work on circular economy, I'm introduced to do this, but I don't know where it's going, and I don't know the bigger purpose. That is something of a challenge as well. And looking at not a single point solution, but for a portfolio approach. And we emphasize that a lot. People would, for example, construct a recycling facility, but the system is not ready. There's the segregated collection system is not yet there. The market for the recycled materials are not yet there. Then that is one of the learnings from the ethnographic research. Accessible incentivization schemes. I think it was also mentioned a while ago. I think Human Nature emphasized that development and corporate space hybrid. We have to face reality, even though it's really good for the environment, but if it's not sustained and not operated in the business sense, it's also difficult to be sustained, which is a loss also for the environment. So we want the development, circular economy innovations and enterprises to self-sustain, if not really make a good profit, because it will have multiplier effects. So it's the value creation that we want to focus on, and the sourcing of the appropriate materials and packaging materials. And then cohesive and integrated CE governance plays a major part, and I'll discuss on that later about the enabling environments. Next slide, please. And then just to have a little plugging, but this is just also not just as I emphasized a while ago, there's also a lot of social opportunities through circular economy. And this is the project that we are having now. It's just that our entry point are the local government units because we want to enhance circular actions, but it's not just the city governments. There should always be inclusivity with the JEDC sectors, MSMEs, private sector, people with persons with disability, and other social inclusion groups. Next slide, please. We have designed, and we encourage everyone to design projects and programs, or even the social enterprises themselves, to be more of a multi-stakeholder, with a multi-stakeholder lens. Next slide, please. We also had a lot of stock take, and I think I've mentioned this already. So the opportunity for circular economy is not just with plastics and organics, although we have to really admit that these are the most visible and the immediate problems that we are facing today with the marine plastic pollution problem, and more than half of the waste actually is biodegradable. So it's like solving the 20% of the problem might have, the Pareto principle. But there's a lot more where circular economy can be applied, and where we can further identify opportunities for building social enterprises or connecting with social enterprises. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I have two more slides. And I also, I was thinking about social enterprises, no? But there could be two major approach, and this is what we've been working on at UNDP as well. There are established social enterprises that are a little larger in scale, but there are also enterprises that are grassroots or are not even social enterprises yet, but have the potential to do so. So when it comes to established social enterprises, we've also worked, and we've also been working with a lot of them. And the thing that they always tell us is that they want partners. They want reliable partners. They're always on the lookout for partners. They have a business model. They just want to partner and establish their supply chain, value chain, partner in capacity building, or in EPR compliance. So either in feedstock sources, technologies, what would be the institutional arrangements between the established enterprises and the other stakeholders. Next slide, please. There are also some that we've encountered about the enabling environments, like policies. Of course, in circular economy, it's not perfect, and that's the challenge. There are barriers for anything that we are introducing as something new. So product safety, for example, always comes up as an issue, especially when it comes to product refills. EPR, extended producer responsibility, and I'm sure a lot of countries in the ASEAN region have varying EPR modality or scheme, but many are into have already some policies that can actually drive circular economy and innovations. Financing incentives, I've heard something about the blended financing, which is also nice. It's a good driver for that, but yeah. And the readiness of consumers and the general public, that would certainly help a lot. But I would like to end my reaction with the next slide, which is more about the JEDC and social enterprises, which is gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, social enterprises. We in the UN family, we also work with a lot of them, and these are just some of the learnings we've had, and that also resonates from a lot of the case studies a while ago. One, working in a group. Especially in the waste picking business, or even in the farming business, a lot of individuals actually are not used to working in a group. That's a challenge, and that's something that has mission and visioning. Okay, there's a support or something. There's a social enterprise, a partner that we can that can support us. Is that the only driving force? There should be a long-term mission and visioning so that everybody, every member of that potential social enterprise would look at the longer-term vision. Trust building, it also came up. Of course, you're starting a new organization, then there's some mistrust issues. There are some issues that, would need more transparency and stuff. Organizational skills, that would come up a lot. And technical and financial skills development. That's true. Actually, waste speakers are very good. Actually, I would rely on them when it comes to the stock market. They know the prices actually every month, every year. But there must be some other technical and skills like basic accounting for non-accountants or how to price a product. That's very important because sometimes they're just pricing based on materials. They're not even factoring in their labor cost. Next slide, please. Next click, please. Yeah. Legal identity. It's difficult to partner with groups who do not have legal identity. And that works for fisher folk organization, farmers organizations, waste picker groups, coastal cleanup volunteer groups. Sorry, I just used the local term for legal identity, but across the region, they would have to secure some form of a legal identity. BIR is something that Bianca mentioned a while ago about the social security and taxation. Bank account, even the opening of a bank account is really difficult. And social protection for the workers, about the social security contributions, and whatnot. Next slide, please. And lastly, during implementation, we expect this to happen. I just showed some pictures about the community junk shop, or these are in Manila, the city of Manila. One is doing cloth diaper making to present an alternative to the plastic diapers. One is in Legazpi City that does refilling station located at the Albay Public Market. But one of the things along the way, while supporting them, there are some form function dilemmas that have to be addressed. The business model, of course, the management skills, because they're already growing as a group. True costs and income, recycling, for example, currently, depending on the type of material, are not as competitive as virgin materials. So they also have that, and they have to adjust. So in conclusion, it's a continuous innovation from the organizational point of view and from the technology point of view, or in the systems and portfolio point of view. At the end of the day, circular economy presents a big business opportunity. It has to be sustained, it has to be inclusive, and that's where we think social enterprises could come in very significantly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Voltaire Acosta. I learned a new word today, GEDC. Gender, Equality, Diversity, and Social Inclusion Social Enterprises. What a mouthful. Thank you. All right, maybe we can go to our last speaker for the day in terms of the panel, no? From our panel of reactors. She helped establish the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability and became its director from 2013 to 2021. And she joined the John Gokongwei School of Management, where she helped develop several academic and research programs on sustainability. She's actually the co-editor of an Ateneo published book on creating sustainable value in social enterprises. No? And she's now she's a professor of the Department of Educational Leadership and Management of the Gokongwei Brothers School of Education and Learning. That's a mouthful. May I call on Dr. Asunta Koyangkeng.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you very much for having me here. This is a topic very close to my heart. Two areas that are very close to my heart: social entrepreneurship and sustainability. And I noted several points in the different presentations of our panelists. And actually, when you talk of circular economy and inclusive loops, there are certain products and there are certain industries that come to mind more naturally, no? So for example, plastics, fast fashion, agricultural waste. The three more or less the plastic and agricultural waste were touched on by our panelists, but also fossil fuel and even heavy industries like cement. So these are the natural industries that usually come into inclusive loops or circular economy. But of course, the last two, fossil fuel and cement, are really more for big companies. It's very rare that we do have social enterprises in this industry. So let me focus on the first three: plastic, fast fashion, and agricultural waste. Plastic has been a topic of several of the panelists, and what is natural is, of course, the waste from plastic end up in being recycled, upcycled, and there have been models also for waste to energy conversion, but we don't usually hear that from the social enterprises. As was mentioned by engineer, the quality of recycled plastic is not often good. In my previous life, I was a chemist and I worked on plastics specifically. I have my degrees are in chemistry. So if you want to get a good product with recycled plastic, you have to mix it with what we call virgin material or with some other, you add it to some other materials that can be useful. So we have seen this with construction materials, for example, by Plastic Flamingo. We have seen this, I can't remember the name, but they have included plastics in roads. I think San Miguel Corporation that has been into infrastructure has also used some of the plastic waste in roads. And there is, of course, this big initiative, which is the plastic credit exchange. I'm not sure if social enterprises have been tapped for this big project, but this is the first of its kind. When Nanette Medvedpo talked to a group that we ACSEnt, we invited her to talk about the plastic credit exchange together with Kin Lichauco, who talked about the use of plastic in road infrastructure. PCX had the model of the waste picker, similar to the Sirudala. But what at that time, that was pre-pandemic, 2018, 2020, when we invited her and Kin Lichauco, they were collecting waste. They had segregation, they had collection centers, some using sari-sari stores, but I have not heard that they have partnered with any social enterprise for this. What they did at that time was they used the plastic waste to become fuel. So it's a waste to energy model for a particular cement industry. You have to have a very specific kind of incineration process for this. So that was one model for waste to energy. And when we were talking to her about this, I think it was also very clear in their minds that this project has to be transitional, because you do not want people to keep producing the source, at source. You don't want to keep producing the plastic, and that's really my concern with all of the recycling and upcycling projects, because people might forget that this is not the best way to deal with plastics. The best way to deal with plastic pollution is to address it at source, not to use plastic. Okay? So whenever we have projects like this, we have to check for unintended consequences to ensure that that this will have a positive impact for the long term. One of my concerns, for example, I think some of you might have heard of eco-brick, where people are asked to put sachets in plastic bottles, and then they would be collected in schools for construction and stuff like that. And so some schools made this a project. And so because but it's similar to what Anna, I just hope that human nature is doing it with a more open, effort with, well-educated or training for the project for the employees, no? But here, if you just assign it to students and they just have to comply, what happened was, because they didn't have enough waste, they were buying sachets and they were buying those little plastic things to fill in the bottle. So it's an unintended consequence. And I think we have to be aware that when we do projects, it has to be thought in a system. When we design a project, it has, that's part of circularity. You have to design a project so that you know what the possible consequences are, and that when you have this design, it goes back to the loop, no? And again, as I have to keep mentioning this, recycling and upcycling of plastics we have to be aware that this is just transitional because we have to address it at source. The second area that I wanted to mention was fast fashion. Interestingly, we had no case presented today, but from our case studies, we have a couple of social enterprises that have tried to address the conundrum of this fast fashion. Again, through repurposing and upcycling of fabric, and these are usually by clothing and lifestyle companies. So we have the example of Anthill, R2R, and they're very conscious about upcycling and zero waste. Happy Lifestyle, I think, can also be a part of this group. What's interesting, though, is when Bianca was mentioning about the bank accounts, when we did this study in 2017, 2018, Anthill and Rags to Riches were actually the two cases that we had. No, three. There was another one, Sky Eye. But they were really very conscious about the legal identity of their communities, because they couldn't even open a bank account because they had no IDs of any sort. So they were the ones who provided the IDs that could be used for legal what do you call that, correspondence, no? or transactions. Finally, agriculture. I'm not sure I heard the composting from GreenNet, but yes, composting is a good effort for agriculture. One of the things that really is a challenge, if you go into agriculture, you have these products that you sell, the green products. One of the important, I guess, concerns is agricultural waste. Agricultural waste is sometimes not paid attention to by us, especially those in the city. But agricultural waste produces a lot of methane if it is not dealt with properly. Methane is 20 plus times more active than carbon dioxide when it comes to the greenhouse effect. So this is exactly one of the sources of greenhouse or global warming. So even when you're into eating beef, for example, cattle produce so much methane. Lamb produces so much methane. All those animals that have 4 stomachs, they produce a lot of methane. So agricultural waste, when SEs go into this, they have to think of what happens to their agricultural waste. And there are many ways of addressing this. One way is probably networking. Is the agricultural waste something that another SE can pick up as a resource? So this is the waste to resource model of circular economy. And this waste to resource model can happen in many ways. So one way is composting, but when you're into farming, I think the volume of waste is really so big to do everything by composting. There has been another endeavor, but I have not heard of this well, I have heard of this in some little projects, but biochar is another way to do this. This is actually a way to sequester carbon. And that it's almost like making uling, You don't burn it to produce the carbon dioxide, but you sort of trap the carbon into the charcoal. And in Japan, they have been using this also to enrich the soil So this can be used as part of the agricultural process, but it can also be used for other industries, similar to the selling of charcoal, no? So a certain consciousness about trying to, first of all, circular economy is about the right designing processes so that they will go back into the loop of the circular economy. But also networking is very important so that the waste of one entity can be the resource of another. So I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kuyang Keng. So that concludes the panelists for today. And I think we're now ready for an open forum. So we've been in a discussion since 2 o'clock, right? And 2.5 hours of discussion from our panelists and speakers. So maybe if the audience would like to come in at this point, we would welcome your questions or comments. Anyone? This is a mind-boggling discussion, and we're discussing circular economy probably only now. Within ISEA, actually, this is our first forum on the circular economy, although we've had informal discussions about it. So there's no one from here. First, I give the floor to anyone in the audience face-to-face to speak. Anyone? Oh, Vi Reyes, I think, would like to come in. So, Vi, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I was really interested to come here face-to-face because I really wanted to learn more about the circular economy principles. I was surprised to learn about methane. So now I am worried. I just Googled right now about coffee grounds. By the way, I am in the coffee industry. So we are a value change initiator for the coffee value chain. So I'm really just worried about the methane that the coffee grounds will be producing or emitting. Dr. Kuyang, probably you can share something about just a little bit about what can we do about the coffee ground so that it will not really emit or lessen the emission of methane.
That's where composting really is very good. Okay, so coffee grounds is very good for enriching your soil. Yes. I'm assuming this is already the use. No?
Yes, we're doing that.
Yeah, so usually if this is kitchen waste, is generally good from vegetables. Don't include the meats. That's a different story. They will kill some of your bacteria there. But anyway, there is a process for the composting, no? But usually organic waste from the kitchen, including coffee grounds, coming from the vegetables, from plants mainly, would be very good. And in Ateneo, we started vermicomposting. That's using worms to change it so that the vermicast becomes the fertilizer. Okay, so the poop of the worms become the fertilizer. So actually, in Ateneo, we don't buy any fertilizer for all the landscaping. It's done by the worms. But also, because the worms take a long time, we also have, you have to take care of them. So we also have a regular composting. We just dump everything. In our house, we just dump everything with partly decomposed soil. And it just happens because you have bacteria there. You have friends in the, yes, in the waste that can help in the decomposition. So that's the simplest way of doing it. I think it's more difficult in farms, in open, like rice fields, because if they are left to decompose there, then that's when they produce the methane and then they just go into the air.
Okay.
And that is the escape that you don't want. You want to trap them. And that's why biochar might be a better option.
Got it. As a rejoinder, sorry.
Just go ahead.
No. But I'm also happy to share with the group that at the very least, the business model that we are doing is aligned or is doing the circular economy.
Thank you, Vi. And maybe at this point, I'd like to ask our organic agriculture expert among the speakers to come in, because I think we're not just talking about managing agricultural waste, no? But we're talking about organic agriculture and regenerative agriculture, which is actually working in the value chain, not just in managing waste, no? So Vitun, are you still there?
Of course, I'm still here. Yes.
Yes, my friend. Can you come
sorry.
in and give us some more perspectives on, circular economy as it relates to organic and regenerative agriculture?
Okay. Well, first, I would need to make the correction of the statement. I think the decomposition produce methane when it's anaerobic, which means there is no oxygen around there. So if you leave the organic materials on the ground, it will decompose, but only emitted carbon dioxide, no methane.
Yes,
Only
Vitun,
in
I
the
stand
anaerobic
corrected.
situation where, and most likely in the water, stagnant water, had to be stagnant water situation, then it could produce methane as long as that stagnant water is deep enough. So if right field, if you only have a shallow water in your field, you might still have decomposition with aerobic method, which only produce carbon dioxide. So I mean that's one of the key issues, key differences between whether you produce. But if you dump your, of course, grounded coffee into the waste, municipality waste, it's likely going to landfill, and that situation it will have the anaerobic decomposition, which produce methane rather than if you leave it on the ground. Anyway, feeding to the worms and so on is a good way, and making a proper aerobic composting would be the best, one of the best situation. Okay, on the issues about biochar. We have been, of course, in our agriculture, organic agriculture, extension work with our farmers. We've been training farmers for composting and doing biochar. The situation is a bit more complicated when there are quite a few methods of producing biochar, and some methods claim to be the best would require a big investment, which is far beyond the capacity of a single farmers. So so you can, in other words, if farmer want to produce their own biochar, they can do it cheaply, but it's not the best quality. And when we say it's not best quality, means it would not last 1,000 years in the soil. But if you produce it in the best quality, it could last quite a long time, a few thousand years. That's what, as far the theory say. So the biochar issue is more or less on the costing and logistic. I know quite a number of groups in Thailand trying to produce biochar by transporting materials. So you by transporting the material, of course, you produce, you emit carbon dioxide through your transport, and before you can fix your to produce your biochar, and of course, burning, making the biochar pyrolysis in the process, you need some energy, and of course, you emit some of the carbon dioxide, which unfortunately unavoidable. So I think the net benefit, the key challenge would be the logistic and the cost of producing biochar, which make it difficult. And also, of course, for the farmers, biochar itself, you can use a limited amount. You cannot use too much. If you use too much biochar in your field, it could have a negative impact on your crop. So you have to know the right proportion. And in the biochar circle, we say you have to charge the biochar before you actually use it. And that's a different technique of charging. Anyway, so basically, it's the cost of producing biochar still is the main stumbling block. Thank you.
Thank you for the correction, Mitu. This is, yeah, it is coming from the anaerobic. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think there was a comment regarding transitional strategies in plastics. I'd just like to make Anna and Anna, are you still here, Anna? No?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Anna and also Tommy to make comments on transitional strategies as opposed to addressing the problem at source. Yeah, Anna?
Yeah, transitional strategies are really essential because you can't really stop the train from running. I think in order to really completely change the business. And then as the technology is changing, you also have to kind of keep yourself abreast of a lot of things. I mean, Tommy and I were friends. We know each other for a while, and we've been talking about bioplastics for a while. But one of the conversations that was super enlightening for me during that time when we wanted to transition to bioplastics was that the local infrastructure for the Philippines is not ready for a lot of the rigid bioplastics, right? I think that was a few years back. And then we had this conversation about different countries would have different infrastructures to support the type of sustainability strategy that should be employed by the country. See, I still remember that, Tommy. You know, we were like talking about PLA, we were talking about all of these things that I was considering. I was so ignorant back then. And now just seeing 7 years after that, at least now a lot of our plastic suppliers are considering PCR when before they would not even think about it because there was no market for it. And we were the only one. We were just a small company really asking for PCR, and now they're now also looking at oxium enhanced rigid plastics bottles, and this has only come up in the recent years when kind of like the younger generation of packaging businessmen have kind of taken leadership in these businesses. So it's so important to really kind of not have an all or nothing or just a binary view of sustainability, but really see it as like a progression of decisions, but really making a commitment from the get-go that our goal is to reduce, our goal is really to get to a point where we're able to recover or not use plastic whatsoever. Because there's also the compatibility issue. I'm in the fast-moving consumer goods. A lot of the like biodegradable, sustainable packaging that we tested in the beginning expired before even our products expired when we did our stability testing. So, for example, some of our products would be good for 3 years, and our packaging was turning yellow at the end of 18 months or 2 years. So, a lot of these things have to be considered before we actually kind of go all in. And I think it's a very sensible approach when you do it that way.
Thank you, Anna. Tommy?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for Dr. Asunta also for the sharing here, for the reaction. I agree almost all of your point. And even in Green Hope, when we say biodegradable, we really educate people that it's in that order. We first reduce where we can, we reuse where we can, and then recycle where we can. If it's not economically viable, we return to earth, and then or recapture or whatnot, the other solution. But a couple of points we need to understand. First of all, plastics as a functionality, right? Not just a material per se. We need that functionality of preserving the food, protecting from with a good oxygen barrier. We need to avoid food expiration, or then we have food crisis. If a lot of the plastic we replace with paper, especially in a very rainy area like us and full of microbes, you leave our kue basah, wet cooked cake in Indonesia, in Singapore, in half a day they fermented. That's biodegrade actually. But if you leave the same thing in America during winter, 2 weeks will be okay outside. So we have to understand that plastic functionality, what it actually does. Having understand that, then we understand the problem with the economics of the plastic, right? I explained a little bit why it's one of the very few materials where the recycled version of the plastic is more expensive than the virgin. Because the virgin material is a byproduct of oil production, whereas the recycle, you need to price is a function of how much energy, electricity, the waste picker stuff, effort and everything to put into it, right? So if the recycled resin is so much more expensive, that means it's just a lot more effort to get it done, to do that. So that is what is really challenging about it. That's why Anna is very good in saying that we can't be dogmatic about it, but we need to be committed in the philosophy. But the approach, we need to look into local context. If your logistic costs more than 10% of your total cost, like very common in Indonesia and many different developing area, compared to Europe's logistic costs 3%. The solution for recycling for anything that requires transportation back and forth, reverse logistic, is just completely different. And not to mention the carbon footprint, right, of doing that. So all those local context is super important. So we're still learning up to today, but we do know some items is not a sin to make sure that it goes to the landfill and biodegrade. For instance, right now we're doing a US project. In the US, they realized they used to freeze the landfill, make it nothing escape. They are proud of having a newspaper or hot dog from 1950s under the landfill. They preserve it. But then they realized it's so hard to do that because the gas, methane, and so forth will seep out. So they asked us to do with EPA a landfill mining outreach program. Mr. Tommy, can you do a slow biodegradation? I'm like, huh? Slow biodegradation? Are you crazy? The activists will kill us. Slow biodegradation. No, we need slow biodegradation because if it goes to landfill, we need to prevent leakage. But if it's the most economical to go to the landfill for residue, yeah, things that you can't do anything else with it, go to residue, we cover it, we wait until it's stabilized and the methane is stabilized, they will mine it. Now it's all about the landfill mining outreach program in the US. So things are still developing as well. One thing that I add about transition is, so we are trying, and transition requires collaboration of all. Brands for sure where it started, but then the consumer of those brands that is demanding the brand is where it's good. We are upstream here. We need to work directly with the brand. The converters in the middle usually are the least innovative. They see themselves as, I'm just a tailor. I just stitch whatever my customer wants. So usually we work directly with the brands. We work with NGOs. We work with the whole ecosystem to do that. One thing that people can do is a policy, right? EPR for the policy, and also what do you call it? Plastic credits is very important. We can explore that, as well as the last bit is cukai. Cukai apa ya namanya ya? It's like a tax levy. That's what it's called, levy, right? Basically, the plastic is so cheap, but the negative externality is so expensive, right? If we can incorporate the true cost of that plastic, that includes the negative externality that it causes, which means levy on conventional plastics that is problematic, that you can't save, while you don't do a levy on the new bioplastic or newer generation that is proved to have way less environmental footprint. There's no material with zero environmental footprint, by the way, unless we are marketing speak. But if way less environmental footprint or can easily be handled, there's no levy for that. They will help to really shift the consumption patterns and price parity of this adoption of innovation. I think if we can do that, and my last point is that I think we should, thank you so much again, ISEA, to do this, because ASEAN needs to go together. And I think ASEAN has so much more similarities. The Filipinos problem with Indonesian problem was so much more similar, and with India also, rather than us with Amsterdam or Germany. Not to mention, I mean, we have a lot of those friends also, yeah. I'm just saying that the different contexts completely present different, and there's certain bias to always wants to force fit other people's solution to us. So ASEAN should explore how to collaborate together, see what works, scale up what works, firm up what needs to be mature off, sift off the ones that doesn't work. So I think we need to do more of that.
Thank you, Tommy. And I think we're nearing the end of our forum, but we still have 10 minutes, and maybe we need to extend another 10 minutes because there are some questions coming in that need to be answered. A question for for Bianca. given that further research on the transformative potential of social enterprises is actually a recommendation of the study. Can you expound on this more, given your experience with waste speakers?
Could you please repeat that? I'm sorry.
In the study, Bianca, that we are launching today called Inclusive Loops, the crucial role of social enterprises in the circular economy, one of the recommendations, which is not very much discussed in the study, is about the transformative potential of social enterprises in the circular economy, because of course there are the transactional aspects of providing employment and, making the economy more sustainable in terms of sustainable consumption and production patterns and all that. But can you comment on this in relation, I think, to the role of waste pickers? Because you were actually sharing that in your discussion.
So I think the most important aspect or role what waste pickers play in the entire recycling chain is, if you do not sort your material at the, say, source, you will not have materials that can be recycled, right? And what these waste pickers do is exactly that. They take material that can be recycled, which has value, and send it to recycling. But these waste pickers do not have, say, the technical or the financial, say, knowledge of how to do it. They are very skilled in touching a material and saying, okay, yes, this can be recycled. But what happens is, when you have to do a larger impact, you have to collaborate with different stakeholders. And when you have to collaborate, you need to be a little more professional. And that is what we are actually looking at. These waste pickers are scattered in different parts of the world and different parts of India or Karnataka. And one important aspect is actually organizing. There are not many organizations like Hasrudala who organizes these informal waste workers. It's just not waste pickers in India. It's also the scrap dealers, the informal aggregators who are actually there in this entire, say, recycling value chain, right? There is a entire value chain that is there. And when you're talking about just transition is leaving no one behind and moving ahead. So when you're talking about just transition and circular economy, you need to make sure that every stakeholder that is there is also moving forward with you. And now when you're saying that, there are plastic credits and, there are so many compliances that comes with EPR and all of that, it requires a lot of knowledge. It requires a lot of skill building, capacity building that needs to be given to this informal sector. And how are you going to reach these informal sector is very important. Say if you are recycling at the very end, if you do not have products to recycle in your recycling factory, how will you move ahead? Right? So that is what we are saying is, you need to identify these informal waste workers in this entire value chain, provide them with capacity, but also then to provide capacity, you need to understand where is the financing coming from. These waste pickers or informal sectors, see, like I can tell you an example. One of the aggregators that we would work with, he says that he does not have any knowledge about compliances and he doesn't know how to register. So he has to hire a professional to do that. So basically, he is actually financing or paying the professional more and paying the workers less because of that, right? So, the employment or the wages of the workers who's actually sorting is less than the professional. And there's nothing wrong. But we need to put more financing at this point and provide them with technical assistance and importance of data in this entire sector. So that is what we're saying, that when you look at circular economy, just don't look at one community or say, you have to look at the entire ecosystem that is there in the say local level. You can do it in a decentralized format. Centralizing everything is something what we really don't promote in Hasrudala. Decentralizing is a very simple way to do it. And when you work with human resources or say informal sector, there are no in this. And you can go to any of our studies. They help in say carbon emissions like GHG studies, and anything like they save money to the local urban body. So this is what we are saying, that invest more in informal sector and look at capacity building and technical assistance in this sector in order to go forward in sustainability of circular economy.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bianca. We have another question from the floor, from Stephen. Would you like to come in?
Okay, yes, hello. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask Dr. Asuna for what she mentioned earlier about agricultural waste. I personally working with agricultural sector in our city in Montalban, Rizal, and now we are trying to navigate plans for our local agricultural sector, and one of our initiated plans is to address their agricultural waste. Now earlier, Dr. Asuna mentioned about methane is much worse than carbohydrates, right? Are there any recommended plans or actions to help our agricultural sectors for their agricultural waste, especially, for example, especially in Cordillera, wherein they have their own agricultural waste? And now, what are recommended, if there are any, to do so with that problem or challenges?
Well, I don't know how big the scale. I think the scale is very important.
Yes.
But as Bitun corrected me a while ago, it's not any kind of decomposition. No? It's really anaerobic. So it's like if you put together, if you just dump them together, that means that at a certain point, the air will not be able to decompose. And that's when methane is produced. And that is still, that is really one of the reasons why agricultural waste is always associated with a methane concern. No? But as I was mentioning, there are several approaches to it. One would be the composting. Another would be looking for ways to use your agricultural waste for something else. Like, for example, there have been studies on how you could use rice chaff, for example, for boards and things like that. So there are parts of it that can be addressed by innovation. I think what Vitun mentioned a while ago, that biochar can be quite expensive technology, has to be taken into consideration. I'm not that familiar with the cost, but I have read and seen documentaries that Japan has been very advanced in this field. So I don't know, maybe there has to be more exploration on that, no? But I think there are other ways of addressing it that have been studied. I am not really that much of an expert, but I think many studies have been done on that.
Thank you, Dr. Asuna.
Thank you. Actually, in one of the case studies presented in the research, Cocobind, they were actually using agricultural waste as raw material to create geotextile nets. No? So there are many ways that social enterprises are doing innovation to actually address what you're mentioning. So we're really running out of time, and we have been here almost for 3 hours. And much as I would like to pursue these discussions for another hour, I think there's a request that we try to keep it within 3 hours as much as possible. So there's a last question that came out from the online participants that I'd like to ask our social entrepreneurs especially to comment on, but also to give your last comment maybe regarding the topic of the role of social enterprises in the circular economy. And the question is, how can social enterprises overcome barriers to accessing scientific knowledge and expertise essential for implementing circular economy practices, thereby fostering innovation and sustainability within their operations? It's a question from Nova Navo. So maybe each of our panelists can actually say something for maybe 2 minutes and a last word maybe before we turn over the floor to our partners. So maybe we have Bitun first. Bitun?
Yes, thank you. I don't think I have an answer. I think every single SE at different stage of development, have different challenge. So innovation, of course, have to address that, and I think, I mean, the cross communication between the SE and the scientific or innovators communities is a critical. But it also means that the scientific or innovators communities have to be flexible enough to listen and to start a project which will be supportive to the SE. And so I mean, too often we have issues where the research community, innovators community have their own agenda. They think they know the best, but and they listen not so much or not enough, not on time. Timing also critical to the SE. So I think that would be my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Vitun. Anna, maybe an answer to the question or your last words for this forum.
Yeah, I just wanted to affirm Vitun's answer. It's really about innovation. I think that's the one thing that all social enterprises have in their DNA is that we don't just create businesses to that are based on the existing demand or the existing status quo, but we're really always trying to challenge the existing structures to really provide a better solution to the pain points that we see. So in terms of the technology, I think patience is one. I think we've been trying to figure out this sustainability for packaging for a really long time. And sometimes you just have to wait for the technology to catch up. Sometimes you have to wait for a more a better climate, I guess, a more friendly climate to it. And legislation has a big role in it. Like when the EPR law lapsed into law last year, all of a sudden, there was that impetus for so many organizations to really get cracking on their sustainability. But in the meantime, when things are not really to our liking, I think that those transitional strategies are very important, not to just give up because the technology is not yet there or the economics is not yet there or the infrastructure is not yet there, but to continue building the network, continuing the conversation, and pilot testing in smaller kind of scale until you're able to scale it up into the what you want. So I guess that's my last word.
Thank you, Anna. Tommy?
I think when you look at the history, right, when we look back, the reason we are in this today's world with unsustainable environment and then growing inequalities and everything is because the businesses are not doing what it's supposed to do in terms of the bigger role. I think we should create we should bring common goods, right? We should bring good products and services for the society. We should solve real problems instead of inventing like trivial stuff. For not for everyone, there will always be somebody else doing trivial, but I think it's very exciting to see. On the other hand, foundations will and not for profit will never have enough money to tackle systemic issues, and government also are struggling today with their limited budget. So social enterprise is really the solution. I think I would consider our mission is done and the needle will move if all businesses are social enterprise in terms of the spirit. So that's why we appreciate there's IKEA over here also. It's really this kind of solidarity together, connecting different stages of social enterprise that will move things. And we should be an example of that. And it's not always easy. I mean, Marie, it's in the Catalyst 2030, right? We should sometimes struggling try to explore boundaries, but I keep in mind in my journey is less ego, more eco. Always see that we are a piece of the puzzle. So let's stitch together that puzzle of the better world, and that it will inspire the people to move. And I think it's just so much more exciting work, so much more exciting value proposition. Actually, an opportunity to get good talents. In our case, good talents with hearts, so they don't only use their mind and hands, but also use their hearts because of our value proposition as a company. And also we will separately, Green Hope is fortunate actually. I don't know how many of social enterprises can have a venture capital behind them who are really has heart. They are truly VC with the discipline, but they're also learn a lot from us, willing to learn. So from people, for-profit people slowly moving to the middle, and for the foundation slowly moving to the middle, and we're together, will make a difference. That's the idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy. Bianca?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is the entire thing would only come into place when there is collaborative effort. And what Hasrudallah looks at is shared resources, one party or one organization or one company, one manufacturer cannot do it. You will have to collaborate. You will have to look at shared resources where local government and the corporates come together and see how they can support this entire economy of circular economy. And as well as looking at working with the research institutions or institutions that look at social entrepreneurship. We need more research paper, we need more say papers or write-ups about social entrepreneurs, and actually put, so we have a lot of data in the organization, but how do you analyze and put out that this is the requirement of the hour, that is social enterprises in circular economy. And the only answer is collaborative effort with all the stakeholders in the entire value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Maybe we can ask Engineer Acosta for last words.
Thank you, thank you. Just to add to the discussion, yes, I've seen a lot of circular economy proposals that were not based on sound science. I've heard about oil being mixed to cement, which is inorganic, and then oil is organic, or oxo-degradables being promoted but actually would result in microplastics, for example. So I would just suggest that I wish there could be greater collaboration between the innovators and the academe. That's actually something that's missing probably in a lot of countries. And in a lot of developing countries, they're more robust, the partnership. But currently, the access could be the national clearinghouses of different countries. At the regional level, there's the ESCAP, Closing the Loop Knowledge House. There's also IREA, the Economic Research and Institute for Asia, which is based in Jakarta. There's so many others, and there's also the Scientist Coalition website where you can access there's a debate on different terminologies. But yeah, please do cooperate with your local research institutes and academia and experts on very particular fields of circular economy to not produce malmitigation of options. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kuyankeng?
Yeah, in our research studies on social enterprises, even if they are not into circular economies, what we have found is that practically all of them are involved in creating sustainable value because they're very conscious of how they contribute to their environment in terms of operations. And then it's not necessarily the circular economy as we understand it here. I think circular economy was initially designed mainly for big businesses because that's where the design, the big impact of these big businesses has to make them more circular. But for social enterprises, I really appreciate the fact that they try to create sustainable value amidst all, they have the social, they have the environmental, they have the economic things to think about. And I think it's really wonderful to have such social enterprises. In fact, I did not mean for plastics, for example, to be just black and white. I understand the concerns, let's say, of Anna when it comes to packaging. And I think, for example, their innovation on trying to make it more dry formulations or having refill stations is a very, very big step towards circular economy. And I think that's the approach that we should take. Follow the innovations. I think the social and entrepreneurs are very innovative, and I appreciate that because it is more on the ground. I think the academe has to be able to learn from them also because academics tend to be very theoretical in their innovations. And I really appreciate that the social entrepreneurs are doing it on the ground. So I think kudos to all of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuyankeng. And now may we have our messages from our partners. First, from Jens Anderson, the Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning Officer of IKEA Social Entrepreneurship. Jens, are you still there?
I'm still here, and you hear me well, I hope. Well, thank you very much for the invitation and for putting this together, Marie-Lisa. I'm very impressed by these super interesting and inspiring contributions, and you see from the discussion that this is such an engaging topic. I mean, we could go on for hours about this. So perhaps we need to set up, very dedicated discussion workshops on certain different topics to cover everything. I just want to say that I'm from IKEA Social Entrepreneurship. So we are a philanthropic organization within the IKEA system, and we support social entrepreneurship within and outside the IKEA value chain. And we, of course, want to follow the geographies and priorities, in particular in sustainability of IKEA, both sustainability and business. So that's why circularity is a key area, and also the big and huge Asia region is quite important to us. So we have a few accelerator programs, one in Indonesia, for example, and we're soon to open in Malaysia. We also have some investments in waste in India. So we're quite very familiar, for example, with the work of Hasri Duwala, which is so impressive, and I really appreciate the type of presentation you did. I think by initiating the report, we wanted to show that social enterprises have a role in the circular economy, and it should really not be taken for granted. When I go out and see what's going on in the more kind of regular circular space, I think the social dimension is quite absent, actually. So I think what this session shows is that there's really a need to take the social and circularity together, and that social enterprises obviously have a role to play. But as I said, when we leave this room and this kind of seminar or workshop, this will not be obvious to everyone. So we need to keep explaining, we need to keep researching, as somebody so wisely said, and we need to keep sharing about the different solutions that social enterprises can bring. And then I think the second takeaway is that, and that relates a bit to what Tommy said, and it was also kind of a basis of the report, it is that we have different contexts in different geographies, but the basic problems are quite similar. I mean, we're all dealing with consumption, with waste, with material flows. So I think it's so important to have this cross-learning between geographies. And of course, Asia is a huge area, so there's plenty of potential there, but also with Europe, the Americas, and so on. So that was one of the premise of the report, because we do tend to compartmentalize and divide the globe in different ways, which I think we can't do in circularity. And then just to wrap up, I mean, it's been mentioned so many times, but just the importance of collaborations. I mean, it's just so obvious. So I hope, just thanking you again, Lisa Marie and your team, and all the great contributors for putting this together. And I hope it could be a start of a ongoing conversation and collaboration to promote an inclusive circular economy. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jens. And last but not the least, may we call on Katerina Hoskova. She is the Community and Initiative Specialist of the Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship in the World Economic Forum. Katerina?
Amazing. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'll mainly be sharing gratitude. So thank you very much for organizing this roundtable. I'm very appreciative to ISEA and Lisa for making this happen, bringing the report to life, but also sharing some of these regional insights. That is very much appreciated. Also very grateful to IKEA Social Entrepreneurship and TechnoServe for actually making this happen. And I'm very grateful so that these social innovators were at the heart of the discussion today, which is how we approach our work at the Global Alliance, but also in terms of this particular research, when really the social innovators, and we had more than 40 innovators we were working with, were guiding us and informing the research and the outcomes of this. And then the goal of the Alliance, generally speaking, is to package these insights and share them with relevant stakeholders who are usually private and public sector organizations to ensure that really social innovation and the principles of it can be really felt in the mainstream, if you will, as well. A lot of these organizations from the private and public sector are also Alliance members. The Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship is a multi-stakeholder coalition that brings together organizations in support of social innovation, ranging from corporates to philanthropic organizations to public sector organizations to intermediaries, impact investors, and so on. We bring them together to really collaborate as a community together. And we mainly focus on topics that need more attention. That can be exactly like in the case of this work on circularity. There's very little attention and research on that. It can be a matter of not having enough data, for instance. So again, kind of more research-oriented work that we do now, for instance, on quantifying the size of the social enterprise movement, arriving to the conclusion there are around 10 million enterprises around the world, to also catalyzing funding for social innovators in fields that, again, not much of an interest, like in the case of climate adaptation. So that's what we do at the Global Alliance, and we're really happy that we could support and create a platform for this research. And while it has come to an end, we are still working on kind of sharing the insights further. So there are still articles coming up stemming from this knowledge piece. But also we are open to continuing this work. So if there's anyone in the room who'd be interested in continuing, be it from the regional perspective or cross-regional perspective or any other that would be relevant, because we are aware that this was a starting point, this research, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. Please let us know. We'd be very happy to continue this work. But again, we will try to continue this conversation, at least from a comms perspective. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope to stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And now we're coming to the end of the forum. Thank you very much to everyone, to the organizers, as well as to the speakers for such a very engaging discussion. But I just wanted to end by sharing with you our thoughts on the next steps. One of the recommendations of the research was to do further research on the transformative potential of social enterprises. And the research did say that social enterprises create social benefits for target groups, reduce social risks for the circular economy, and increase the scale of the circular economy. But I think a very important insight coming from the sharing of the cases today is the transformative role that social enterprises play in terms of changing the lives of marginalized sectors as stakeholders of the circular economy, and enabling them, not only enabling social enterprises to become part of the conversation, but actually enabling these marginalized groups such as waste pickers, farmers, as well as workers to have a seat in the decision-making and the practice of the circular economy. The Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia is committed to work with everyone who participated in this forum, as well as our organizers, to actually evolve a community practice on the circular economy. And we're going to do this through our major initiative on the Decent Work for All in Sustainable Value Chains, which is our multi-stakeholder platform, which we co-convene with World Fair Trade Organization Asia and Asia South Pacific Bureau for Adult Education to promote social entrepreneurship as a strategy for accelerating the SDGs. And we hope we could work with all of you in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Maybe this is the time for a photo opportunity. So we'd like to request our online friends to kindly open your cameras, and then for our face-to-face participants to come up front so that we can have our friends in the background. We're still waiting for our friends to open their cameras. Yes. Hi, Amy. Hi, Fa. Hi, Madel. Hi, Nova. Waiting for other friends to open their cameras. I think, yeah, we're getting there. Yun na, dito tayo para short tayo. And we can post this online.
Okay, hello. Hello? Yes, may we request everyone in the online platform to smile? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Next page. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's join the face-to-face participants. Keep on smiling, everyone. So Cindy, please take a picture. Everyone in the online community, smile. Ready? Ready, Cindy? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in other events on circular economy and other events at the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. Bye, everyone.